That's right. It's the inevitably nonsensical, yet hopefully enjoyable, After Movie Diner. If you enjoy the show and have pursued the recommended treatment from your medical providers, why not support the show on Patreon over at patreon.com/After Movie Diner. You can also donate to the show directly at aftermoviediner.com. Rate and review the show wherever podcasts are found, and rating and reviewing is possible. Even a 1-star review provides useful insights on exactly the sort of petty-minded and wretched individual who negatively reviews free entertainment they do not need to be consuming. So, without further dribbling, John Cross.
Because of SidNEIGH LuuMAY.
Mm-hmm.
Or, as some people might call him, SidNEIGH LuuMAY. Like that might be a thing. I don't know if they do that, but it might be a thing.
Yeah, could be for sure. Exactly. Yeah. I also I discovered that one of the Jarmusch movies I haven't seen yet, Dead Don't Die, was on HBO, so I watched that one today. So
it's not good.
Yeah, it's I didn't hate it, but I think if I were to rank all of the Jarmusch films that I've seen, there's only 3 that I haven't seen: Broken Flowers, Only Lovers Left Alive, and Patterson, which is available on this free streamer. I'm going to check that one out. But I think I would put it maybe below, like Dead Man was one I also didn't care for as much. So I put it maybe below Dead Man in my Jarmusch.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Dead Man in a while, but my memory is that it was quite good. But maybe I'm wrong about that.
I might have been tougher on it. Actually, now that I think about it, I think I saw it twice. I think the first time I watched it, I was tough on it. My poor friend was all excited to watch it. He was like a big Iggy Pop fan. And Jarmusch uses a lot of fade outs, like to go from scene to scene. Yeah. And every time he did a fade out, I would be like, next week on Dead Man, when Dead Man returns, and he's like, okay, I get it,
same Dead Man time, same Dead Man channel. Well, I mean, look, Jarmusch is as we know, Jarmusch is both a rebel and a nuisance. I don't know.
Yeah, right, exactly, right.
He's like I don't know. He's like he's what I imagine hipsters see right before they die. You know what I mean? Like Jarmusch comes to them in like a pinstripe suit, being all like Jarmuschian, makes some ironic comment, tells it to Adam Driver, and then they skip off into the sunset. And that's what hipsters see as they gasp their last breath.
Right, exactly. Well, that was the thing, is like I read that like Tilda Swinton was the one who was like, you should make a zombie movie, and he was like, okay, I'll make a zombie movie.
Yeah, but why did he have to make it meta and ironic? It's just so annoying.
Yeah,
such a great cast, and but Murray believes that his best performance ever is Broken Flowers, and I've never screamed "Wake up!" so much to a TV screen in my life while I was watching Broken Flowers.
Yeah.
I was like, could someone smack Bill Murray around the face and make sure that he's still breathing, please? Right. If he considers this his best performance, I don't know. He's either mental or perpetually lazy.
Well, because that might be the thing, right? Broken Flowers might be the one, if I finally watch that one, that I think is worse than Dead
Broken
Don't Die.
Flowers is by far the worst thing I've ever seen in the history of things.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's up there. The Dead Won't Die, it was just too, ironic and knowing and, all that kind of stuff. It was just a bit too much.
I mean, it was as knowing as it gets when the characters are referencing the script in the movie.
Right.
Well.
Yeah, it just, I don't know. It just smacked to me a little bit of, all right, Jarmusch. Yeah. Stay in your lane.
Right.
Making, quirky, indie, inward, thoughtful, slices of life with a tinge of exploitation underneath.
Right.
Stick to that. This was, I don't know, he had the genre, because he's done like the hipster Western, and he's done the hipster rockabilly movie, and he's done the hipster heist movie. And, he works in genres, but it's, and he's done samurai and spy and other stuff, but always within this sort of Why did you bother to write a script this week, this time, Jarmusch? No, I didn't bother to write a script. Right? Do you even have any character names? No, just call them the same name as the actor. Oh, so we're really just going to scrape the bottom of the barrel. Oh, I think we've burrowed through the barrel and now we're somewhere underground, being molested by worms. Anyway, sorry. I don't know. Hello and welcome to the After Movie Diner. And it's a very exciting After Movie Diner episode because this kicks off. It is, as they say, the inaugural episode of 2024 Sleazy Spader Springtime. Matt, how exciting is that?
I'm very excited. You know, last year we did Crash, and
yes.
I think that might be my favorite Spader movie. Yeah. And so it was hard. Like for us to come up with a movie that for me was like that kind of worked.
Yes.
As well as Crash, I wasn't expecting. So I'm excited. I'm excited to talk about this movie.
But what's interesting about this Sleazy Spader Springtime is people are going to be like, well, it's not springtime, John, it's June. But I'm going to tell you that when you look out of my door or my window or anything that allows you to view my front yard, you will see, Matt, blossom still on the trees. There is still blossom on the trees. And the rule in Connecticut, Matt, passed by the governor himself, is that while blossom remains on the trees, and by blossom we mean the little pink leaves and stuff, not the actress or character from TV wearing a big floppy hat. We're not talking about if she is my Bialik. We're not saying is my Bialik in the tree. That's not what we're saying. Because if my Bialik is just hanging out in your tree, I'd call the police.
Yes.
Because enough of that. Anyway, enough of that, Bialik. Go get in your lane, Bialik. Enough of it.
Go do some kind of like neuro medicine quack.
Go tell everyone
commercial.
how fucking intelligent you are. Go on.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, Bialik, enough of you. But no, the rule in Connecticut, Matt, is if tree blossom is still visible, then scream at my Bialik. But if it's still visible, then it's still spring. And isn't the first day of summer June 21st?
Right, because America has this whole unofficial holidays thing where it's like America has decided that Memorial Day is the official start of summer,
yes.
and Labor Day is the official end of summer. But actually, like physics and the planets and all of that stuff, it's kind of more that the equinoxes are different times. America has just decided to put them at different times, but really the 21st of June and 21st of September are the beginning and end dates.
And look, we started with Sleazy Spader Springtime, so we're going to end with Sleazy Spader Springtime. I'm not changing it to Sleazy Spader Summertime. I'm just not. Just accept that we didn't get round to recording this until June and just get on with your life. Who cares what it's called? Roll the theme music. Oh, it's Sleazy Spader Springtime. Welcome to the show. Oh, it's a Sleazy Spader Springtime. I want you all to know that if you please, there's James Spader Sleaze and it's got nowhere else to go. So loosen all your blouses, give your nose a damn good blow, 'cause you know we're gonna give you what for, politely, because it's 2024. Sleazy Spader Springtime Show. Oh yeah, it is 2024's Sleazy Spader Springtime Show. All right, listen. I love hearing that theme music every year that we do this. It's Sleazy Spader Springtime. I don't care what date it is, Matt. I'm not changing it to Sleazy Spader Summertime. Everyone can just keep existing and just understand. Call it what you want. Like if you want to tell friends about it, call it whatever you want. To me, it's still spring, still blossom on the trees. Matt, I'm done defending this. But anyway, as I was saying, we are going to be doing probably the last four because, as I said, apart from a few a few movies where he plays a very subsidiary character or low down the cast list, and a couple which we actually almost covered and then didn't cover, and now I don't really want to go back and cover.
Right.
Basically, these last 4 will be the last 4. Because there are also movies that we did, people need to remember. They were like, well, you haven't done Pretty in Pink or Less Than Zero. And I go, right. But if you go back to the Andrew McCarthy New Year's special episode, which basically becomes a Spader episode, it's sort of the unofficial beginning of Sleazy Spader Springtime, because we talk about Mannequin, Less Than Zero, and what's the other one he's in with McCarthy? He's in one other one. Oh, Pretty in Pink.
Pretty in Pink, yeah.
So, yeah, we talk about all of those anyway on the New Year's Andrew McCarthy A Rockling Eve show. So find that in the thing. Because people will be like, well, we want you to redo it. And look, maybe in the future I'll be like, all right, I'm going to redo Mannequin and Less Than Zero and whatever. But nobody wants that, Matt. I've taken numbers, I've looked at the polls, and they've all said no. Right. Matt, you are today wearing the color of your people, and by people I mean maniacs,
yes,
or folks from Maine, people from Mainlanders, whatever you want to call them. The lovely folk of Maine are wont to wear the color of their peoples, which is, of course, the Moxie orange.
The Moxie.
Matt, I cannot not comment on it when I see you wearing the full Moxie. And I have to say...
The shirt isn't the Moxie. It's my DTV connoisseur short, but yeah.
It's the shirt that he made sure was exactly the same orange as the Moxie. Because he is a Mainlander through and through, people. He is a maniac of the highest order.
Yes. I discovered recently that Kevin Eastman, the man who co-created Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and who was married to Julie Strain, was actually originally from Portland, Maine.
Connections.
I was talking about, yes, I was talking about the movie Rowdy Girls, where apparently the woman that Julie Strain, or the man that Julie Strain was having a love scene with, didn't want his bare buttocks shown in the film. So Kevin Eastman's like, sure, show my bare buttocks instead. So I don't know if they gave him a stunt buttocks credit. Exactly. Yes. So hey, that's us Mainers. We're you need stunt buttocks, a pair of stunt buttocks.
If you need a pair of stunt buttocks, people in Hollywood who might be listening to this, Spader fanatics the world over, strange Scotsmen hiding in their sheds, and other people who may or may not listen to the After Movie Diner. Things. No, what was I saying? What did you say?
The Mainers. That's our state motto. If you need a pair of stunt buttocks, that's Mainers are there for you.
Hollywood, blah blah blah. All those people I just mentioned. If you need stunt buttocks, head yourself to the northeast, and Maynards will gladly oblige.
Yes, exactly.
News at 11. So that's a thing that's happening. I was disappointed, Matt, just a little bit, like a little brokenhearted, that when we met in Philly earlier this year in person, ladies and germs, I don't know if you knew that meeting had taken place, but it did indeed. Matt was not of that evening wearing his Moxie cap.
That's right. Yeah.
And there was a little part of me that was like, oh, am I not ready yet for an in-person Moxieing of the highest order?
The thing is that the Moxie hat, that you mentioned, I've never really thought about this before, but I never wear the Moxie hat out of the apartment. I wear it just like on the like when we do our recordings, I wear the Moxie hat. I do this writers group here in Philly that meets like remotely once a month. I wear the Moxie hat for that. But when I leave the apartment, I almost always wear a Phillies hat. Not because I think anyone would give me a hard time if I had a Moxie hat on, but the Phillies hat, it's it's better to have it than not have it. Like, when you go into a store, like I don't know how many
stores, Matt, is what you're saying.
Yeah, it's like, there's always gonna be someone's like, hey, how about them Phillies? How about the Phillies? How are they doing? So it helps. It's kind of the lubrication that eases the gears of Philadelphia.
It's the doth of the cap.
Right.
It's the little forelock touch.
Yes.
It is the sort of nod of the head of similar personages.
Yeah.
And people who would be like, all right, let's be friends based purely on our love of this particular sports team. Not only that, but let me give you a discount at this restaurant tonight and maybe a free beer in the supermarket. Who knows?
Right.
I'm sure it opens doors and opens legs, as they say.
Yeah, I mean, I would tell people like
every woman in Philadelphia is wild for any guy wearing a Phillies cap.
I would say just it's definitely a suggestion. I think for people visiting Philadelphia, a Phillies hat will help you.
Yes.
But also make sure you have some sense of how the team's doing, because that's people are going to ask. I mean, people will ask me how they did the game. They're like, "What did you think of the game?" And I was like, "Or did they win?" And I'll be like, "I DVR'd it. I'll find out when I get home." Because that. Yeah. The other thing I discovered too, because the hat, I now have the maroon hat, but I used to have the red hat. And the red hat, if I had, because the Philly shirts were all red, if I wore both, people would think I was going to the game that day.
Yes.
And so I had to stop wearing both because it was like either one or the other, like a Phillies.
Yeah, you can't double up. If you double up, you're immediately going to the game. The only time you'll see me wearing my Maple Leafs cap and my Maple Leafs sweatshirt together is either during playoffs and I'm sat at home watching them, or if I'm on my way to a game. Those are the only times that you triple up. In fact, when I went to my one and only game in Madison Square Gardens, where they were playing the Rangers, obviously, I showed up. It's the only time that I've worn my... I had Maple Leafs bubble hat, Maple Leafs scarf, Maple Leafs gloves, because it was in February, Matt. It was right around my birthday. Maple Leafs gloves, Maple Leafs hoodie, and I had everything from my waist up was Maple Leafs merch. And I sat proudly in the stands of Madison Square Gardens, the only Maple Leaf fan.
Oh, no way.
So it was all Rangers people around. Now, it's okay because the Rangers roundly whipped us, so they wiped the ice with us. So even though it was a wonderful birthday present that my friend got me tickets to MSG to see the Leafs, they were, I think they lost like 4-0 or something. It was a round whipping that we got from the Rangers. So that stopped the hate or the anger or the spitting or whatever.
Right, of course.
Because my friend was like, "You may get spit on." I was like, "What?" And they were like, "You may get." I'm like, "Why would you spit on the like losing side?" Right. You know what I mean? So
funny you mentioned that, because I went to a Bruins game one time when they were playing the Ottawa Senators. Yeah. So like, I mean, of all the teams to have to be angry about would be the Ottawas, right? Like who, who cares? And Ottawa's playing a back-to-back, so they, on the road. So they were done. They were cooked. And my buddy and I were watching. I mean, there was like a 7-1 drubbing that, Boston gave them. And there was one guy with an Ottawa jersey in the stands, and people were harassing him. Like, but I mean, other people in the stands were like, "This is ridiculous," and they called security for them and pointed out who it was. But there's this obnoxious Torontonian? I don't know if that's the term, but
Torontonian.
Torontonian. There was this obnoxious.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what his deal was. I don't know if he lived in Boston, like he was a transplant from Boston, or if he just was in town. But it seemed like he was taking these business clients to the game. And he was sitting next to my friend and I. And the whole game, he's just shitting on the Bruins and talking about how Boston fans are crap. They don't know the game like us, in Toronto, constantly going on and on. And then he sees this incident take place. And my buddy and I, we're like together about 5'7", like, and we're not like these big burly guys that would start a fight. But it was almost like the moment he saw that happen, he was like suddenly like toning it down and like trying to joke around with us. Like we hadn't talked to him the whole time. Right. Like I don't know if he thought we were going to start with him or something. It was like like his whole tone changed. Suddenly he was just like not Mr. And it's like my friend and I were like probably the two most innocuous looking people in there. Like if anybody who's going to sit next to him was going to start a fight with him, right? It wasn't going to be us. But it was kind of funny to see him like change on that, where like like how horrible Boston is and how great Toronto is and how these fans don't get the sport, they don't understand it and all that stuff.
This was a Leafs guy?
So he was like, so it was like they were playing Ottawa, but he was a Leafs guy. He was talking about like how this Bruins guy got into a fight and everybody was cheering for him and the guy was waving. He's like, "Oh, Ty Domi would never do that," and this, and it was like the whole thing. He's totally insufferable. But
I'm so sorry that ever happened to you.
No, it's
even as a Leafs fan, we disown this man.
Right. There is a type of hockey fan. So
but then we've also been trying to disown Justin Bieber for the last 5 years as well. We're like, Biebs is a Maple Leafs fan. Please, not Bieber. Anyone but him.
Exactly.
Winkly AIDS germ. Anyway, carry on. Yeah.
There's this type of hockey fan. So like Canada has their share of them, but also like Boston, New England, they have them as well. There's sort of this insufferable hockey fan who's like, you don't know the sport. You don't get it. You can't talk about hockey. I played juniors, or I played when I was 10 years old, and I know how to play. And I played in the semi-pro league, and you don't really get it, and all this stuff. Yeah. And like when I listen to Boston sports radio, that person will call, and they have the audacity to say, like, I was a goalie at a Division III college, and so I know what it takes to be a goalie in the NHL. And they're like, really, you're calling us telling us we don't know anything about the NHL because you played, goalie 20 years ago in high school. And it's like, but that's how that was the kind of fan that guy was, and there is that type of fan.
You could always just sort of throw on Springsteen's Glory Days and then hang up on him. Just be like, nobody cares about whatever you did back in high school, you absolute redundant human being. So, sir, we have 2 questions about Sleazy Spader Springtime. 3, actually. We have 3 questions. Do you think we do them now, or do we do them at the end? What do you think?
It's up to you. I go either way. So I'm,
Let me have a look.
Yeah, I don't know what the questions are, so I don't know.
Yeah, maybe we do one at the beginning, one in the middle, and one at the end. Maybe that's how we do it. And then that way, the one person in question who asked the question has to wait till the end of the show, which he does anyway because he loves this. The only reason I still do Sleazy Spader Springtime is 2 reasons. There's 2 reasons, but there's three reasons.
Right.
4. No. One of them is Andy Lunn. Andy Lunn. Back in 2014, Andy Lunn and his wife Joanne did their very own Sleazy Spader Springtime and tried to get through all of Spader's films. And so it was inspired by the Lunster, and indeed just his constant emails and messages and comments on these shows that I still do them. And the second reason, Matt, is because I woke up one morning and realized in order to have seen and or covered all of Spader's work, I only actually have to do about 4 more. So I can probably handle that. You know what I mean? We're already 1 down, Matt. I've already watched Critical Care. And so I'm already 1 down. I have 3 to go. This is easy. It's a breeze. Yeah. And I happen to know that one of the other ones we're doing is one that I've already seen, and I'm happy to rewatch it. So that's good. And then there are 2 which are the Spader Cusack movies. Those are the only other 2 that we haven't done. There is, because, so you've got True Colors.
Right.
From 1991, and then the other Cusack one is it the Pentagon Papers from 2003? I think that's Cusack.
Oh, that sounds Cusack-ish.
Right.
Yeah.
So
that's a TV movie. That one.
Yes. Is John Cusack in this one? Maybe he's not in that one.
It's got a lot of people that it's like the kind of people that would be in a Cusack movie are in it. But you're right. I don't think he's in it. Like
it's very
Claire
Cusack
Forlani, right?
Adjacent.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Alan Arkin, Paul Giamatti. These are people that seem like they would do Cusack movies.
Yeah. Oh, maybe he only did 1 then. I don't know. So hang on. We've actually got 3 left. Oh no. This might mean that I'm doing 5 Spader films this season because I want to get them all done, dude. I just
finish them off.
Yeah, I just want to finish them off. So anyway,
it's funny because he's letting you catch up because he hasn't done a feature film since Age of Ultron in 2015.
Right, exactly. So he's giving me time. I think that's that's what Spader back when the Blacklist started. He was like, I don't know if I want to get locked into a TV show. And he looked up Sleazy Spader Springtime in the After Movie Diner, and he said, these guys have only done like 6 of my movies at this point. I'm going to take this TV series and I'm going to ride this hot bitch to the end of the line, which is how Spader talks, I believe.
Right.
and I'm going to make all of this, fuck you money. And, enough to keep me in silken scarves, trilbies, and tiny, tiny, tiny cups of coffee from now until the day that I inevitably bloat up to 400 pounds and burst like a condom full of pudding. Okay, that's some of the best poetry I've ever just come up off the top of my head.
Beautiful.
That is beautiful work. That's beautiful Spader-based work. So he took the TV train all the way to sweet milk from teat moments. I don't know what I'm talking about anymore.
Because when you look at his
but
career,
you know what I'm saying. He suckled at the corporate teat, which actually sounds like a Spader sexual innuendo. And then he was like, where's John got to now? He goes, oh, he's only got about 5 movies left. All right, I'll give him another year.
Yeah. Well, because there's something about, if you look at his career, like he does The Practice in 03-ish, I guess.
Yeah.
And what is it? It's like 1, 2, 3, 4 movies he's done since then. Like and one of them is Shadow of Fear, which he did around the same time he was doing The Practice. So it's kind of, but it's like, I think it's like one of those things where it's like almost like, he was doing all these movies and I guess people didn't like him as much, but then he's doing like The Practice and Boston Legal and he's winning Emmys and stuff. And he's like, this is like a lot easier. Why don't I just do this and just keep getting paid doing this? And, he's doing The Office and then the Blacklist. It's almost like he just kind of, it's like almost kind of like what you said, like what is going to get me into, silk scarves and in tiny coffee cups and putting on weight and balding and all that. What's going to let me do that?
If you don't count Lincoln and Age of Ultron, if the last time you have to go back to when Spader was anyone that anyone was talking about. And I don't mean this in a bad way. I love Spader. It's like I love Peter Weller, right?
Yeah.
But no one's talking about Peter Weller. No one after RoboCop, yes, but then after that, no one's except us. Well, facts,
exactly.
right?
Yes. Yeah.
And it's the same with Spader. And he has a sort of similar Cusackian trajectory in terms of like mainstream, and suddenly, right into the straight-to-video bargain bin.
Right.
The last time he did anything that anyone gave him any kind of note for was Secretary back in 2002.
Right.
Which, I don't think we've covered Secretary.
Okay.
I might have 2 more Spader.
That was one of my wife's favorites, actually, is Secretary. She actually that's like one of her favorite movies. She's always really liked that one.
I think when we started Sleazy Spader Springtime, we said we would never do Secretary because what would there be to say? Because the whole point of the movie is how sleazy he is. You know what I mean? Like the whole point of the movie is that he's meant to be, dripping sweat and clammying up his palms at the thought of Maggie's Gyllenhaals. And so you just that's the whole. What would we talk about, Matt, except how engorged his face becomes pre-coitus?
You make a great point, because there are elements of the movie we're going to be talking about where he does these little like touches of like literal and figurative touches of Spader that you're right. Like he's meant to do them in The Secretary, and so there's like there's no like. What do you say? Novelty to it.
No,
it's in Secretary versus like in all these other movies. It's like it's part of the novelty when he stares at someone a little bit too long, or grabs a butt cheek when it's probably not appropriate to grab a butt cheek,
or purses his lips, or does little like a little tick tongue thing where he's like keeps tonguing his lip and stuff in an obscene way, and making little like reverse laughs, like sort of like sort of little, like he has to rear his head back, so he goes and he sort of tongues his lips and purses his lips, and like he'll he's very like a sort of camp butler will sometimes like place his hand in a very sort of purposeful way. He did this as Alan Shaw on Boston Legal all the time. He would pull chairs away just using like the tips of his fingers or whatever in sort of these ridiculous, almost like British butler at the turn of the century sort of things. You know what I mean? He scurries a lot and sort of places his hands on things very purposely. And sometimes he would do that with a lick of the lips and a little like laugh. And your whole body, you just freeze up. It's just like, like everything about it is just so unpleasant because he's combined three creepy things into one massive sleaze moment. Anyway, Matt, go ahead.
Well, because it shows you the practice, like how much of a one note that show was until they brought him on. And then they, they're adding William Shatner and all. And it's just like they then turn into Boston Legal. Right. But it's like, the show that was there before with like Lara Flynn Boyle, and I can't remember the actor's name. I think it's like Dylan's or what, I can't remember. But
Dylan McDermott, yeah.
Dylan McDermott, yeah. It's like you're watching it and it's like, okay, great. It's another, lawyer procedural kind of thing. It's like, whatever, big deal. And Donnie Wahlberg guest started it. It's like, no, and then all of a sudden you bring in Spader, and like you said, he's just like moving chairs around and he's smoking cigars and he's just like staring at people too long and just, and everybody's like, wow, this is actually interesting. Like I haven't seen this on TV before. Like a whole host of Americans that had never seen, any of these indie films that he did and couldn't remember Pretty in Pink. They're suddenly like, who is this guy?
Yeah,
this is
guy?
actually interesting. Like I've never seen this on TV. Is this what people do in Boston? Like, let me watch this.
They all behave like flouncy end of the pier magicians.
You
see my handkerchief? Anyway, no, but it's no one had ever seen, because by that point, and we'll talk about this in Critical Care, because Critical Care, I don't think, and I've watched a lot of Spader movies, I don't think I've seen him move in quite this like feline sort of both kind of lazy and relaxed and menacing and unsettling. It manages to be both. He's both being very like louche and very kind of like feline and slithery and slow moving and not really picking up his little slippered shoes or whatever, right? And not really picking up his little slippered feet or whatever. But at the same time, he's sort of advancing upon the woman, with his entire being. Yeah. So it's this weird, it's like an erection in a smoking jacket. It's just, it's so weird how he's both utterly menacing and relaxed at the same time. But also something of a sort of jazz swing cat as well.
Yes. Well, and the most fascinating is he's doing that kind of that routine with, with Helen Mirren in scenes where there's not supposed to be any kind of like sexuality between them. And it's almost like
Helen Mirren and Spader, man. I mean, the two of them together could ignite a fire that we could never put out. Like it would, the two of them are two of the hottest, sexiest, weirdest people imaginable. And yet somehow in this movie, and this I threw squarely at the feet of Mr. SidNEIGH LuuMAY. How on earth do you put Spader and Mirren in a movie and just don't have them fucking rutting each other's brains out in a laundry chute or a janitor's closet or something? I mean, that's what this movie should have been about, Matt. Not fucking Kyra Sedgwick and Margot Martindale and whatever their issue is. Couldn't care less. Just Mirren and Spader just oiling into each other with abandon.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there needed to be, like, I can't remember the name of the actor. There was one with the glasses who was, like, the one who's, like, into, like, the technology of being
Poindexter is his character name. I've got no idea who the guy is. I'll look it up now.
Yeah, but he needed to walk in on them in the break room, just, like, on the table. With, like the refrigerator door open and, like, somebody's sandwich falling out. And so, like, this whole thing of just, like, and there's Spader with his denim coat and Mirren's in her nurse's outfit. Like, you just needed to walk in on it and just, like, turn around.
He's naked except for his Chicago Bulls jacket.
The big Chicago Bulls jacket.
What the hell was the... Okay, let's go back. Let's go back.
Yeah.
I can't, because we've got to get into this, because it's bizarre. There's so much to... Okay, so the guy who played Poindexter was called James Lally, and based on the fact that he doesn't have a photograph on IMDb, I'm assuming he hasn't done very much since.
Right.
So yes, let us start. We're going to be talking about Critical Care from 1997. Yeah. Which on the surface is and very often during the film, is a movie about the dilemma that both humanity, but also the healthcare system faces when a patient wants to end their life, or when a patient's life should be ended. Yeah. And that's the sort of discussion that's going on throughout the film. However, because Spader is in it, and make no mistake, Matt, he turned this into the sex romp farce that it becomes. Because they got the studio. Two things happened. Either Spader demanded to be in it, but only if he could make it as horribly perverse as humanly possible. Or the studio heads saw the dailies of the first two scenes of him just, in feline shape, oozing through the hospital like it was an exposed uterus or something, clinging to the walls with his weirdly clammy suction cup hands and his engorged face. And that's how Spader treats this whole film, like it's his slave to be oiled up and had his way with. And so it takes the movie into weird directions, because the Spader storyline is very farcical and ridiculous, and then the Helen Mirren storyline has some really dark, almost problematic issues throughout it. And being a deft hand at weaving dark and light throughout his movies, SidNEIGH LuuMAY is not a deft hand at all. In fact, he's atrocious at it. What SidNEIGH LuuMAY is good at doing is filming a conversation across a desk with the widest lens possible, so that even though they're just across a desk, one of them is out of focus and one of them is in focus. And he does this twice throughout the film. That's what SidNEIGH LuuMAY is good at doing. Weaving the intricate palette of, nonsensical sex farce and harrowing discussion about cancer and loss of body parts that is Helen Mirren's storyline. Yeah. He is not good at doing that, Matt. So we are stuck with what Critical Care inevitably will become, which is just a series of skipping stones from one madness to another, orchestrated by Mr. Longlens himself, SidNEIGH LuuMAY, who is known for, Serpico, Dog Day Afternoon, Network, Murder on the Orient Express, bunch of movies in the 70s. He also, believe it or not, Matt, directed The Wiz. I had no idea. When they were making The Wiz, who went, oh, I know, get SidNEIGH LuuMAY to come on down. Because who wouldn't know, you know what I mean, the African-American experience more than a fucking Frenchman. I don't know that he's French.
Who was born in 1924.
Right. So yeah, he sort of does a bunch of stuff in the 70s. Then in the 80s and into the 90s, it's really, you're only following LuuMAY, if you are a LuuMAY addict, at this point. You know what I mean? And then he does movies that you wouldn't even think of him doing, like Family Business, Guilty as Sin, the Larry Cohen scripted, what was meant to be like an erotic thriller and what turns out to be one of the most tedious courtroom dramas you've ever sat through. And this is what I remember now is, what in Guilty as Sin, which I have as because I'm a Larry Cohen completist. Yeah. Guilty as Sin, and also because Rebecca De Mornay. I mean, that's what I was going to say. Rebecca De Mornay. I mean, she is De Mornay-licious. Yes. Whatever. She's the 90s go-to. She
even made the video for Starship's Sarah better, because she's in the video for that song. That song for the most part, it's one of those 80. For me, there are very few 80s songs that I skip.
Right.
But and Sarah would be one of those skips, like the Jeffrey,
right.
But her being in the video, it's just yeah.
But it's funny, yes. Again, LuuMAY here manages to take a movie with fucking Don Johnson and Rebecca De Mornay, two more soap opera good-looking, weirdly American people do not exist except for Rebecca De Mornay and Don Johnson. They are perfectly poised to be the simmering, moist love nest of the summer of '93. Instead, LuuMAY marches in with his racked focus and his madness and sucks all the sensuality out of the room. And that's what made me think of in Critical Care. I was like, why have I been here before?
Right.
And now I realize what it is. It's the disappointment of watching a 1993 Rebecca De Mornay, Don Johnson sizzling crime sexathon and then realizing there is no remotely interesting sex in it at all. And it's all about like the legal, putting the legal system on trial or whatever.
Right.
And I'm suddenly like putting this together with Critical Care because it's LuuMAY being like, I'm really going to tear the legal system a new one, and then I'm really going to tear the new healthcare blah 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 a new one. It's LuuMAY boxing way above his weight. But, look, he's a renowned 70s director that somehow slipped into making just bizarrely questionable films for the rest of his career. He also managed to, again, completely unsex Sharon Stone in the movie Gloria, where, they tried to make the front cover all sexy. But, it's a SidNEIGH LuuMAY movie, so don't hold out for any actual rumpy pumpy. Because rumpy pumps, LuuMAY would not do until, ironically enough, his last movie, Before the Devil Knows You're Dead. Suddenly, in Before the Devil Knows You're Dead, there is like a full frontal from behind Marissa Tomei Pound Town.
Right.
And I'm like, what? Listen, you had Mirren and Spader next to each other. And you wait till you've got Philip Seymour Hoffman and Marissa Tomei. I mean, Tomei, no question. Yes. But Seymour Hoffman, I think that's what LuuMAY was doing. He's like, I'm going to go full frontal, but I'm going to go Philip Seymour Hoffman full frontal and fuck you all. LuuMAY just lighting a tinderbox, running out of the room.
Well, because I was looking at LuuMAY's career and I was like, what have I seen of his? And I haven't seen Network, which I think it's supposed to be like his best. That's the one that people look at as his best. But I've seen Serpico, Dog Day Afternoon, 12 Angry Men. Yeah,
those are all. Yeah, 12 Angry Men. Those are all his best as well. Yeah.
Yeah, but the other one that I've seen a long time ago, and I need to see it again. It's been forever. Was Prince of the City with Treat Williams from like '83 and. That one was a really good one as well, and I think that's probably why in my head I think of SidNEIGH LuuMAY as like being like on the level of like all the great auteurs because I've only ever seen his good movies,
right?
Like, and you look at his bio and he does like a movie. He's almost like Woody Allen in the sense like he does like a movie a year every other year throughout the 70s, 80s into the 90s.
Yeah.
And I haven't like this was the first one that I'd seen that wasn't like this like like. Not Oscar nominated kind of thing or kind of, and I mean, Brent, I do think Albert Brooks, like if you look at the year of 97, like who was getting nominated for Best Supporting Actor, I think he deserved to not be nominated, but he turns in that kind of performance. Like he turns in quite a scene-stealing performance in this film.
His performance in this movie is fantastic. There are two or three performances in Critical Care that I'm generally or genuinely grabbed by. Spader notwithstanding, because Spader grabs me whether I want it or not, the cheeky swine.
Yes.
Oh, you little cheesy, sleazy monkey. Grabbing me whether I gave you permission or not. That's just Spader. We give him a pass because he's James Spader.
Yeah.
The other weird pop culture reference that I don't think we've ever brought up here, but I think it's either in the first or in all of the Spader episodes. I think it's either in the first or the second episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer with Sarah Michelle Gellar. And when did that start? I want to figure out when that
I was
started.
in college, so I want to say like 97. I think I was a freshman in college. 97, 98. The TV series.
The TV series.
I want to say it was 97.
1997. All right. So I'm going to look at this right now. Let's go to 1997. What are we talking here? We're talking 2 Days in the Valley, which was 96, but 2 Days in the Valley, Driftwood, Keys to Tulsa, and Critical Care. No.
Yeah.
But however, in the first series of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, when I think Cordelia is quizzing Buffy to see if she's like a cool chick or not.
Right.
She says, I think Cordelia, I can't believe I can remember this shit. I can't remember what happened yesterday, but I can remember this fucking nonsense. This fucking mad college era nonsense. Anyway, Cordelia says something to Buffy like James Spader as a question mark.
Right.
And you don't know, which way is she going to go? Which way would a cool kid go? And Buffy goes, oh, yeah, he totally needs to call me, or something like that, right? That's something like that, right? And then they have a bonding moment about how hot Spader is. So there's two possibilities there, right? Well, because actually, weirdly enough, if you look at the lead up to 97, so Buffy comes out in 97. So let's assume that the stuff they're talking about happens 96 and before. I'm just trying to be fair to old Spades here, right? You've got Stargate, Crash, and 2 Days in the Valley, right? And then before Stargate, you have Wolf, Dream Lover, Music of Chance, whatever. Yeah. So I guess in 97, being like, for Spader, that means two things. It means, one, you've seen weird James Spader movies. Like, you're two high school girls who have happened to, like, groove to Crash and 2 Days in the Valley. Two movies that high school girls should not be watching. I mean, well, no, just watch whatever you want. But you know what I mean? It just doesn't. American high school girl and sitting down to toke one out to Crash. Doesn't make a lot of sense. But I think what we're learning is Joss Whedon probably watched Crash 2 Days in the Valley and thought, who would be a cool guy for the girls in my high school to think was hot? So there's a lot. But the reason why I bring all this up, Matt, is just the name James Spader in 1997 was imbued with so much power that Whedon knew that by saying, oh, my high school girls are going to like James Spader, he knew the levels.
Yes.
He knew that almost 20 years, well, what would it be? 97, 2007, 25 years later.
Yeah.
That two debonair gentlemen such as you and me, man, would be sat here discussing the many tears of James Spader. By tears, I don't mean the tears he's caused women to shed. I mean the many levels. You know what I mean? Yes. Not the many tears of Spader. I don't, it wasn't that. No. You know what I'm trying to say, Matt. It's a beautiful thing. Anyway, so yes, Buffy, weird pop culture reference. And Critical Care comes out in 1997 as well. So I wonder if Whedon wrote the first season of Buffy, was like, oh, great. Goes out on air, and then he sees a Spader movie coming out. And he's like, oh, great, another Spader movie. I referenced him. I wonder if it's... And he goes to see Critical Care. Yeah. And by the end of Critical Care, an ashen-faced Joss Whedon leaves the cinema, an emotional wreck, going, I have made a terrible mistake.
Right, cool. Well,
I have imbued Spader with too much power. Right. And what he's paid me back with is Critical Care. Yeah. So go ahead, man.
I mean, just the scenes with Kira Sedgwick alone, right? It's like, I don't have any kids, certainly not any daughters, let alone any kids. But, imagining being, a show with high school girl, like as a parent, that's like every parent's worst nightmare is that your teen daughter is going to see James Spader behave the way he's behaving in this movie, and imagining him being a doctor or something that's like and so
he's so transgressive in this movie. You wouldn't want him anywhere near your children or your wives or anybody. I mean, anybody really. Right. I mean, he can have the elderly and. Well, he does. In this movie, he works in a ward where people are basically there to die. Yeah. And they have a large... The rest of the hospital, Matt, looks like a perfectly normal hospital from like the 1970s or 1980s, right, but being worked on still in the 90s kind of thing. Like all hospitals kind of limping on into the future. Little bits have been updated, but not a lot. But then weirdly, and this doesn't make any sense, weirdly, James Spader's area, his domain, looks like a maze of fallopian tubes and vulvas, whatever, just a lot of biological vagina parts, basically, that he slithers around like a wandering sperm, deciding which room to impregnate with his sweaty presence. Seriously, that's right. What this looks like. It bears no structural resemblance to the rest of the hospital at all. It lives in some kind of Doctor Who TARDIS-like netherworld in which Spader's devils do their prowling. That's exactly what this movie takes place in.
Yeah, well, it's like, I would not be surprised to find out that Fred Olin Ray or Jim Wynorski shot like space sex romps using that as the set for the space
100%.
Right?
In fact, I would say that Spader demanded that they use Fred Olin Ray, Jim Wynorski, sex space romp, spaceship sides. What do you call them? Sets. The sets, right. Yeah. He will have demanded that they use those sets. Spader will have definitely demanded. And that's why it looks like it does. It looks like the lowest budget sex slave space romp Jim Wynorski movie that you've ever seen. And here's Spader oozing his way through these corridors of despair.
It's like we get introduced to him. Like first, Helen Mirren is doing nurse stuff, and then she goes back to this space bridge set thing, and there's Spader like half asleep with his feet up. Yes. He's wearing like these sneakers that like I would have bought 97. I would have gotten them for high school, whatever, Air Jordans or something, and like these pants and then like this denim shirt, something that like a schlubby Jim Belushi would have worn, like 2 sizes bigger than that. But, and he's just like there with his hair kind of fat. And he's just, and it's like everything he's saying to Helen Mirren is just like, ooze, and then it's like Helen Mirren is just kind of putting up with it almost like she's okay with it. But it's like you said, it's almost like there's this kind of like this oozing kind of like drippiness that's coming from the chair, like while he's just there with his feet up and everything.
Well, there was a scene where, so Helen Mirren's there, and Spader's there behind this sort of giant space desk. This space desk, the Julie Strain has definitely dragged her buttocks along. Julie Strain's naked ass has been drenched across that desk. In a Fred Olin Ray, Jim Wynorski movie. Oh, that's also sadly making me think of poor Peter Spellis, but he would love this rant. He would love it. He would be all about it. Miss you, Peter. Anyway, the nurse walks by and stops at the desk and sort of says something and walks over. Just an innocuous, barely cute, but, just sort of little nurse walks by, right? And you couldn't quite tell in his interaction with Mirren just how sleazy this Spader was going to be. You just couldn't tell because he was waking up, he was yawning, he was probably concentrating on making his 8th erection of the morning go down so that Mirren didn't catch an eyeful of it. And so you couldn't tell in the way that he was sort of waking up whether he was a complete scuzzy slime ball or whether he was just a regular, normal, pouting James Spader. The moment the nurse walked past him, he was up on the desk like an engorged panther waiting to pounce. He was as proud and as steadfast in his decision to bed all nurses as any man has ever been. And it was then, Matt, that I was like, I'm not even kidding. The moment he did that, the moment the nurse walked past, I'm like, there's 2 Spaders are going to happen right now. It's either the one that we get, the leaping, engorged, erectile panther of danger, right? It was either going to be that Spader, or it was going to be I'm going to try and do something different and be, artistic and off and weird about it. And we were going to get one of two Spaders in that moment because it was a SidNEIGH LuuMAY joint. I didn't know we were going to get full-blown, untethered, testicles to attention Spader. And that's what we got, Matt. The first half of this movie is full-blown, cannot be stopped. His face is a giant red penis head. Ready to burst, James Spader. And then the second half of the movie, we get annoying, anxious, farcical, preachy James Spader. But we'll get on to that. But Matt, yes, the first half of this movie, what a delight. What a delight.
Yeah, the way you described it, the way I was thinking too is like, when they have a dog or a cat, when it's feeding time, right? And the animal's just kind of relaxing, kind of waiting. Yeah. But the moment they hear like the can or the tin open, and suddenly there's like food, food. It was like the way he responded to her, not only to her, but also Kira Sedgwick, who was dressed in like some like 60s flight attendant,
60s flight attendant gear. Yeah.
It was like I don't know what she's wearing, but the moment it was like my cat when I opened up the can of food, just like what's going on?
I suddenly looked at her and I went, wait, is this movie set in 1964? Right, exactly. Like, is this set around the time of Beatlemania or something? Right. I thought this was about life or death in the modern medical. Right. And then suddenly she walks in and I'm like, what, Jackie O? Like, what's going on? Exactly. So, Kira Sedgwick shows up. And again, he's like a rutting gibbon. The moment she comes through the hospital doors, he is just... He might as well be Spider-Man, like all four limbs on a tiny shelf with his knees parted and his, the pose I mean, like the Spider-Man. Yes. Right. Like he might as well have pounced literally in midair and landed like a giant erect spider, like Spider-Man, like Spider-Man, like Spider-Man. Come on now. Mm-hmm. It was there in front of us all the time, Matt. It was every time a woman came into view, he was boinging about like one of those toys kids used to have where you used to press them down, it would tick a little bit and then it would bounce. That was what, that's what he's like. Right. And the whole first half of this movie. Except, Matt, and this again is the fault of SidNEIGH LuuMAY, and I'm throwing it squarely at his door, except with Helen Mirren, who Spader does a little like cheek peck at the very end of the movie, and they have a moment. But that should be full-blown fire, Matt, and LuuMAY's thrown his fire blanket all over it like a boring professor.
Right, because you know what's funny, because he did crash the year before with Cronenberg. Cronenberg not only would have had the love scene, but like when we find out too that like, that Helen Mirren's character had the mastectomy and we don't see it, right? They just, she just explains it to Jeffrey Wright's character. But Cronenberg would have been like, I want sex and with the mastectomy. Like he would have wanted the whole thing, right? Like he would have, and it's kind of funny when you think of like SidNEIGH LuuMAY's like, no. He can't have sex with Helen Mirren. I can't do that. No. Whereas like Cronenberg probably saw that and was like, wait, how did you miss that opportunity, LuuMAY?
Cronenberg and LuuMAY are sat around in the sort of director's lounge. There's a director's lounge somewhere. It's probably in Toronto, Paris,
right? Both these movies were in Toronto.
Oh, in Toronto. Okay, it's in Toronto.
Both in Toronto.
Yeah, it's in Toronto. It's some sort of entirely covered in velvet sort of amphitheater with tables on it. Where they kind of loosely lie around in smoking jackets and waspy scarves. Right. And Cronenberg would slither over to LuuMAY and be like, how'd you miss that one, LuuMAY? How do you miss Helen Mirren, body horror, and weird sex with James Spader? It's served up to you right there in the script. And while it happens, have Albert Brooks in his bad old man makeup looking through the thing and yelling about, make sure Helen Mirren has health insurance. And so this is the scene we wish we got, Matt.
Right, yeah.
Sadly, we were stuck with the LuuMAY version of Critical Care rather than Cronenberg. The idea of Cronenberg going, you missed a trick there, LuuMAY. God, it was handed to you on a silver platter. And you fucked it up, you stupid Frenchman. just like you to run away from something.
Yeah, I mean, it was the perfect, like just talking about it, because I didn't realize until I saw it, because I was like, one, like, it's weird because it's like they both were shot in Toronto,
right?
And it is almost like they almost kind of feel like they're inhabiting the same space. It's almost like the like Spader's just in this universe of just right. Playing these different parts that are in Toronto. It's like, yeah, I feel like he just we just need more directors to make shot on film 90s style independent films with Spader in Toronto.
Definitely.
With whoever, Helen Mirren, whoever it is. But
yeah, whoever it is. I would watch them now, Matt.
Yeah.
Like Spader looking like a weeble. He does. So James Spader, basically ever since doing Boston Legal, not only has not been able to just hold anything normally, everything he's done since Boston Legal, when he holds something, at one point there's a bit in Kyra Sedgwick's apartment where she's handed him a picture frame.
Right.
And then she starts breaking down and crying, and he's just standing holding this picture frame, and he sort of looks at it like, he's just like, what do I do with this? Like, he just has no concept of things and props. So ever since Boston Legal, where he played, the most sleaziest, slithery character he's ever played, with the most pursed lipsing and the most tongue lashing and the most ridiculous line delivery. I love Boston Legal. I love it so much. I watch it all the time. But he's managed, much like that. There's always that one role for Jeff Bridges. It's The Big Lebowski. He's never quite been able to go back to just being Jeff Bridges. Everything he's done since The Big Lebowski is The Big Lebowski. And like when Johnny Depp did Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, everything after that was Hunter S. Thompson. He just couldn't get rid of the ghost of Hunter S. Thompson. Probably because he lived with him for like a year and a half and probably spent the whole time doing this with his hands. And then by the time he finished the movie, this is just what Johnny Depp did with his hands all the time. By the way, if you want to see that performance of Johnny Depp hands, you have to subscribe to the Patreon for at least $1 a show. So if you do that, you get the full video version of the podcast as well. But if you don't do that, I'm sorry, it's just the audio, and you don't get to see me do Johnny Depp hands. But Matt got to see it, and it was a thing of beauty. But no, so I think it's a bit like that with Spader. Once he's done a little bit of Boston Legal, I think that's it. It's so, because by the time you get to Age of Ultron and Age of Ultron, and we're covering it later with Mo, so I'm not going to talk about it too much now. But Age of Ultron, he manages to make sort of the embryonic robot, the robot that first comes out where it's all dripping with oil and it's all slightly like bent over or whatever, like the first incarnation of Ultron. Yeah. Right. Where he makes it look like the oil drum zombie from Return of the Living Dead, where he makes it look just oozing and whatever. He manages to imbue a robot, like an embryonic robot, with like weird sex appeal, and slithery cat-like puppet without its strings, sort of ragdoll movements, and you're like, Spader has done something to the Marvel Cinematic Universe that no amount of Chris Hemsworth will ever be able to wipe clean, because Spader came out and was like, I know I'm just a bad guy robot, but really I'm here to fuck everything. You know what I mean? Like, he was just so, ugh. And then did you see him in his motion capture suit in the behind the scenes thing?
No, because I saw it on Disney Plus. I saw the movie on Disney Plus, so I didn't get the behind the scenes stuff.
It looks like a baked potato in a wetsuit. It's one of the most unappealing things you've ever seen in your life. Right. Because he's portly now, as gentlemen get. I'm portly, Matt. I'm not going to knock the portly. Yeah. But I think he acted next to William Shatner, saw that William Shatner was at any minute now going to balloon like a sausage pumped rapidly with hot air. Right? His face casing almost splitting at the seams. I mean, Shatner is so ridiculous in Boston Legal.
Yeah.
But Spader basically became Shatner. And by the time he's in the blacklist, he's having to wear 14 scarves and a lot of baggy, loose suits and smoking jackets just to cover up the paunch. But now he's got this big, shaved, just gross head. And it's just like a giant glowing head of Spader coming at you with his lips all quivery and tongue all smacking. And that's not a vision anyone wants to see.
No, but you're like that movie, that Avengers, Age of Ultron, like compared to the other Avengers movies that were just like these big, over the top kind of like, spectacles of film that like, we hadn't really seen before. It was like that Age of Ultron one, it would have completely been an afterthought as far as the Avengers movies go if it wasn't for Spader voicing that robot. And it's like, I mean, he's like it sounds like he's exasperated half the time. Like he just doesn't want to be dealing with Robert Downey Jr.'s character or whatever. And I guess they're friends in real life. And so, but it's like the way he's just like, oh, just get away from me, Iron Man. Or just, it's like, I can't be bothered with any of this, And it's like.
He plays everything like a slightly camp butler from an episode of Upstairs, Downstairs.
Exactly. And it's like we haven't had a Marvel villain like that. Like the two craziest Marvel villains we've gotten are him doing the Ultron and then like Mickey Rourke in the second Iron Man. Right. And it's like the movies, they've gotten so big that they just don't know how to come. They don't know how to bring that energy back.
But that was Downey Jr. like basically giving his pals a lot of, like, I'm not kidding. If he could have swung it, because the only thing that people can't stand about Downey Jr. is he's still friends with Mel Gibson. And he has a very personal reason for still being friends with Mel Gibson, which he has voiced a lot. Mel Gibson basically helped get him sober and, put him up and got him even back into films and got him insured when other people wouldn't, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. Like, if someone had done that for me, even if he is a old anti-Semite who... believes the end of the world is fire, brimstone, and whatever. I don't know what Mel Gibson thinks, but he's, a misogynistic mad bastard. However, if he'd saved my life, I might still send him a Christmas card, Matt. That might be it. I might not be shouting him out and praising him in award ceremonies, but, whatever. Downey Jr., I'm coming for you. I'm going to be the new Spader to your Iron Man. But no, it's anyway. So, but going back to Critical Care, it feels like from his first movie to his last, he has been building up to because he's sort of John Cusack, but he's also sort of Nicolas Caged in the sense that he's become a parody of himself. And we're sort of okay with that. We're okay that he became because when we saw him do it originally in like Pretty in Pink, where he's kind of slithering around and like he looks like a 30-year-old prowling the high school for young virginal, chorus girls. Anyway, because I swear that the character in Pretty in Pink is the same character in Less Than Zero, and all he's doing in Pretty in Pink is coming away from his crack den to hang out at high school and maybe flog some drugs to people. Because it's the same character. When you watch them back to back, it's a very disturbing vision. But he's taken it from there where you kind of go, oh yeah, occasionally Spader does that weird, sexy thing. We all feel a little awkward. And then we get on with our lives. Well, in what he's actually done is he's taken that on board and just decided every single film, whether it calls for it or not, like 2 Days in the Valley, he's an assassin. There's no reason for him to be sexual at all. Not at all. But Spader decides to straddle his victims and, have an outrageous sex scene with Charlize Theron. How the fuck did James Spader swing it, man? He swung Theron. Who would have guessed that he would have swung Theron?
Well, because I guess she was so new in the business at that time, right? Like it was
like an initiation, Matt.
Right, because he did the same thing with Deborah Kara Unger. She was very new, and it was her and Lambert both did, right? Because Lambert, Highlander 3: The New Dimension, where they have this huge sex scene. It's like Deborah Kerring, where she's like doing the bit. She's like, all right, I'll have sex with both of them. I don't care.
I'm game with fucking Lambert. Jesus, can you imagine that we ever lived in a world where we all just openly tolerated Christopher Lambert? Right. No, I'm sorry. I'm not just gonna. And the funny thing is, Matt, is I've watched a lot of Lambert movies. I bought Fortress 2 on DVD today. Right. But that was for Pam Grier, Matt, and you know that.
Exactly. Right, exactly. Yes.
But we all just tolerated Lambert. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Jean-Claude Van Damme is better than Lambert, and some people don't even tolerate Jean-Claude Van Damme, which is a mistake. But because who doesn't love a little Van Dammage? Yeah. You know, what did the old poodle cuddling Belgian ever do to you? All right, Matt, sorry, you were going to say something about critical care. So we've barely got past the nurse going past him and him leaping up like a panther. Yeah.
Right. No. Yeah. We've just gotten to where he meets Kira Sedgwick, and
yes. Oh yes. Well, she's
dressed like a '60s flight attendant, which they would have been stewardess back then. So now it's a flight attendant. But I think even in the '90s, we still would have said stewardess. I think, right?
Yeah. I mean, maybe. I mean, you know, now we're being told there's derogatory terms for the people who bring you little tiny crackers on planes. Like, all right, what is it you want to be called? Oh, you're a flight attendant. You're attending the flight. Well, I'm attending the flight as well. Technically, we're all attendants because we're all here. Anyway, sorry. I know that's not what it means. Anyway, yes, go ahead, Matt. Sorry.
Well, look, because he meets Kira Sedgwick, and we don't know fully what her game is at this point.
No.
But we just know that he is talking about I forgot about the part where he tells Helen Mirren that he was a nerd in high school. But now that he's a doctor, he's a nerd who gets laid because he's a doctor.
And we're like, Spader, there's no way on earth that you were a nerd in high school. There's only one nerdy character that I know that you've ever played, which is in Mannequin, where you play against type, and even you imbue him with a slimy, sleazy, questionable sexual attitude. And you're like, you couldn't be a nerd if you tried. Spader, you came out of the womb with a floppy blonde fringe, and people have been swooning at your feet ever since, you mad bastard.
Well, because like if you read his bio, he traces his lineage back to like the 17th century of like people coming from England to America, like the
with tiny coffees.
Yes, and he's like hanging out with John F. Kennedy Jr. as a kid, and Jackie O, entertaining him, and John Jr. at her place at the Upper East Side. It's like that was his life. And it's the one thing of him as an actor, he would never be able to pull off nerdy. Like he's, going to Phillips Andover Academy with John Jr. He's like,
well, that's why he's so badly cast in White Palace.
Right.
Because White Palace, he's meant to be part of first of all, he's meant to be Jewish. Secondly, he's meant to be like a big part of a Jewish fraternity. And thirdly, the whole point of it is that he's meant to be like this little nebbishy, quiet, nervous, anxious Jewish kid, and she's meant to be an over-the-hill, sort of middle-aged waitress in a sleazy cafe, and they're meant to have a thing for each other. Like it's meant to be a coming-of-age story for him and a sort of one last hurrah for her. And it's like that's what the book was probably about. But in the movie, they cast James Spader and Susan Sarandon, and suddenly Spader is lying on a mattress waving a sandwich around while naked Susan Sarandon, how'd you swing that, Spades? Sarandon, and while she is cavorting on top of him like he's got a 15-foot dong. And so suddenly the nebbish shy thing and the over-the-hill, sort of burnt out Hollywood film star kind of look waitress is suddenly like young and sexy Susan Sarandon. There's probably about 3 years between them. And suddenly you lose all. His best friend in the movie is played by Jason Alexander. Like the lead character should be a Seinfeld type,
Yes. Yeah. Because that's the thing, right? Is that, like you said, Spader was born in 1960. And throughout the 80s, he's playing these high school kids.
Yeah.
When he was not in high school in the 80s. He was in high school in the 70s.
Yes.
There were some other ones like that, like Judd Nelson was one that was born, I think he was born in 60, 61. So that, and Robert Downey Jr. is close in age, but it's like, for him, I think more than any of them.
But Michael J. Fox didn't play his first high schooler in a movie scene till he was 48.
Right. Yes. But it's like Spader, more than any of them, did not look like a teenager. Like in Pretty in Pink, when he's just sitting in his dad's mansion in Chicago or whatever, and he's just laying there with his feathered hair.
Like Pablo Escobar, the waspy Pablo Escobar.
Right, exactly. It was like, what high school has this guy?
Say hello to my tiny compatriot.
Exactly. Right. Yeah, it's like what, like Andrew McCarthy and him are about the same age. Andrew McCarthy looked more like he was in high school.
Right.
Than, it's like James Spader looked like he was 10 years older than Andrew McCarthy there, It's like,
well, that's what I'm saying. His character in Pretty in Pink could so easily be the same character that he plays in Less Than Zero, because I would totally, if someone went, well, is his name Blaine or is that Andrew McCarthy?
Blaine. No. Oh, you're right. No, I think that is Andrew McCarthy. His is Steph.
That's not a good enough name for him. He should have been called, Vulva or something. Anyway, he should have been called I don't know, Leonard or something sexy. That he could have been like Leonard and rolled the L a bit. Anyway, what was I saying? Yes. So you could well believe that Steph in Pretty in Pink,
right,
had a sideline where he got heroin addicts to blow men for money to pay for more heroin, which is a thing that he tries to make Robert Downey Jr. do in the movie.
Right.
I fully believe that Steph is just trying to find more young, impressionable men in high school, and that the backstory to Pretty in Pink, meaning the story that's happening behind the action we're watching, where we have a will they, won't they between fucking John fucking Cryer being the most annoying person on the planet and Molly Ringwald, when really what we want to be watching is Annie Potts. And Judd Nelson or someone, James Spader. What we want to be watching is Annie Potts and James Spader, and what we're actually watching is fucking John Cryer and Molly Ringwald. And you something inside you dies. But what's going on behind the scenes that we don't know about is that he is recruiting young men to be part of his rent boy heroin fueled crab shack or whatever it is that he's running up in upstate New York with the fucking Kennedys or whatever.
Yeah, right. Yes, yeah.
I just believe that that's James Spader. I don't believe he's playing a character.
Right. Well, because the thing is, like you said, the John Cryer thing. It's like, again, going back to the Buffy and not wanting your teen daughter to be, thinking that James Spader is a good doctor,
right?
He's just, right? You don't want your teen daughter anywhere near that.
No.
Like John Cryer, it's like any PSA about like stalkers or overly clingy lovers, or like any PSA telling kids hey, this is not healthy behavior.
Right.
It's John Cryer calling Molly Ringwald.
Right.
And it's like Harry Dean Stanton doesn't seem to care too much, but it's right. You just want you want James Spader to just kind of squish him, just
right.
That's
everyone
it. John
else
Cryer
on this
done.
movie was knee deep in cocaine, rock music, and prostitutes. Everyone else.
Right.
Harry Dean Stanton was only doing the movie so he could afford all of those things.
Yes.
And, and James Spader was definitely all right. James Spader comes with his own trailer filled with cocaine and prostitutes at this time in his career.
Right.
He just backs up a trailer. Come on, lads, back up the trailer. And then they just back up. Fucking Spader, man. Anyway, critical care. Critical care. So there are three rooms that we're focused on.
Yeah.
3 rooms? No, 2 rooms. Mainly 2 rooms. Room 2
rooms,
and room 5.
Yeah.
Room 5 is an old guy who everyone in the entire medical profession has said he is a complete vegetable. He will never, ever, ever get better. He will never, ever walk again, sing again, look again, whatever. He has no brain power.
Again. Right.
He's not conscious anything. He's a complete vegetable that's being kept alive with a breathing apparatus at the moment. And then the other one is a guy who I think we're led to believe, like through his own reckless nature and his own bad life, has lost his not his lungs, his
kidneys.
Has lost his kidneys and is basically slowly dying. They can't even give him water properly, and it would shock his system and blah 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 blah. Like there's so much horribly going wrong with this guy, and he wants to die, and the system won't let him die. And then with the other guy who should be dead, he has 2 daughters that won't let him die. And one of them is Cara Sedgwick, and one of them is Margot Martindale. Margot Martindale is the sort of Jesus freak, or presumed Jesus freak, who claims that her father is squeezing her hand and answering questions and all this other stuff when he isn't. And Cara Sedgwick is the I just want the money from my dad's will, sort of, what's the word, like Black Widow kind of character, where she's going to seduce her way into getting what she wants. So as we said before, there's sort of this farcical element, and then there's this serious element. And the serious element is really about the discussion about how life should end and who should get to decide how a life ends and blah, 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 blah. And then, with other digs at the healthcare system thrown in. And then the farcical side of it is, basically like, will Spader lose everything? What's going on with these sisters' wills? Cara Sedgwick has filmed James Spader and her getting it on, and at the beginning of it, she's convinced him to tell her to have her father killed. And it's this whole thing over and over again. And he's got to lie his way out of this, or figure out another more inconceivably ridiculous way out of it, which he manages to do, Matt. And believe it or not, everyone gets what they want. But then it's all undercut by a horrible, horrible, horrible religious kind of sub-message as well, which we can get into. But yeah, that's basically it, right? I kind of covered most of it.
Yeah,
right?
so the big piece, right, I guess, is that Spader he thinks he's seducing Cara Sedgwick, but really it's the other way around. And she, like you said, she gets him to say he should kill the father, and then the idea is that she wants him to testify on her behalf.
Yes. So
even though she's suing the hospital.
Yes.
And the hospital, so like that's where he could lose his job and his residency and all that, is because he would be essentially testifying against his boss. And Albert Brooks is the kind of the maniacal hospital head who wants to keep this guy alive as well, because he's getting like $100,000 a month from the insurance.
Yeah. So yes, so it's all, I mean, actually, like, again, as we go through it, that's all kind of clever and sort of well woven and well done. It's just, I think SidNEIGH LuuMAY just LuuMAYs it up a bit too much, I think, and sort of slowly ruins it, I think.
Right.
Because the pacing wasn't there, and the slapstick wasn't there, and the satire wasn't there, and there wasn't a sure hand behind this. But when you start to sort of describe it, and you start to sort of think, well, name another movie that throws just so much, everything from theology to philosophy to, human nature to whatever, like all this stuff that it weaves into the movie, on paper, it makes sense why everyone was excited to do this, because it does sort of, in its best way, attempt to cover the arguments from all angles.
Yeah, definitely the case there. I agree with you there. Like, and I think the people we get, I mean, Jeffrey Wright is playing the younger guy who's with kidney failure. He's just coming off doing Basquiat, which is a fantastic movie. He's playing someone who's 23, even though he's like in his 30s. But still, he's great in that role. Like you said,
he gets to see Helen Mirren's Tatars.
right, exactly.
We don't, because it's directed by LuuMAY.
Right.
But Jeffrey Wright gets the sample of the Tatars.
Right, exactly.
And good to you, Jeffrey Wright.
Yes.
You were robbed of the Oscar, my friend.
Right. Yes. Well, because like Albert Brooks as like the hospital head, like his it's the kind of performance that like could potentially, we've seen those kind of performances get nominated for Best Supporting Actor.
Right.
The thing is, when you look at 1997, you get people like Robert Forster, for Jackie Brown. I mean, there was a deep year that like he wasn't gonna, he didn't. No. He wasn't that good to beat out some of those names.
I wish the makeup had been slightly better. He's a little, like Peter Falk looks like at the beginning of The Princess Bride, where you kind of go, I know he's only in one scene, but you could have done a slightly better, aging job. And that was funny because Peter Falk was already quite old at that point, but they still felt like they need to age him further. Right. And so Albert Brooks kind of looks like that in this movie. He's got a little bit of the Geppetto in Pinocchio kind of look about him. But I love everything he's doing. And I even like his bit of business and be like, all right, so how can I help you? He's like, you beeped me. Right. Don't make a joke. Like I liked all that. Like, and he kept saying it over and over again. I thought that was really well done. I really enjoyed that. And there was one bit, oh my God, I wish I could remember it. But you know how like they would do a scene and then it would basically cut and then the rest of the film would carry on. And there was always like a little jokey button on each scene. Oh man, there was one that Albert Brooks did that was so clearly improvised, but was also just like, oh my God, Albert Brooks is a genius. Right. And I can't remember what it was. Oh damn it! Everyone will have to watch the movie.
Was it earlier in the was it with the first meeting with Spader, or was it one of the ones later?
I think it was the third. I think it was the third meeting.
Was the one where he tells Spader not to go down and help out the 19-year-old with the head wound because what's the point? He doesn't have insurance. We're wasting our time or whatever. And Spader's like, no.
It was one where they were talking about a woman. I think maybe one of the daughters or something, and they were talking about a woman. I think.
Oh, that could be okay.
Because it was sort of an innuendo. I think it was something about wives and doctors don't mix or something. I forget what it was. Right. Yeah. Still married, kid. But whatever. Mother-in-laws, am I right? Anyway, so So, but the first half of the movie, before James Spader is entrapped in what do they call that? A hot box? No, what do they? What's it called when you're trapped by a lust for a woman?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah,
but anyway, he's been hoodwinked or whatever they call it. Well, he's been shanghaied, Matt.
What I love when he gets shanghaied is that like they're having like their lovemaking scene. I mean the way that lovemaking scene starts, where like she goes
so wrong in so many ways.
Right, because when they go out to dinner, she suddenly is dressing in like a more modern outfit, right? She's not dressed like a 60s flight attendant.
She looks like a 70s flight attendant.
Right, exactly. She looks like Sharon Stone in Casino from the 70s sequences, right?
Yes,
exactly.
That's exactly what she looks like. Yes,
there.
Good job, Matt.
Yeah. And so when they go back, she's like, "Come back to my place. Why don't we go back?" And he's like, "Of course," and of course he's like slobbering over her the entire dinner, right? I mean, he's just like eating his food, and he's like,
but the way he sat in the chair. Yeah. He sat in the chair like it was his head was the top of an erect penis that had been clothed in like baggy handkerchiefs to make it look like he was wearing a suit. That's how Spader looked when he sat in the chair, kind of like he was sort of like half sliding off the chair, but also half kind of like leaning forward like a rutting mongoose. It was everything about it was that dinner sequence, Matt. Yeah. That was obscene because it pans from the most harrowing scene in the movie where Helen Mirren tells Jeffrey Wright that she knows his pain and that she's been there, and she actually exposes her mastectomy to Jeffrey Wright and says, so I know what it's going through, because you're getting the idea that Mirren's going to probably help kill this guy. Yeah. Put him out of his misery, which, by the way, should be everyone's legal right. Yeah. Fuck Christianity. So anyway, the really harrowing scene, Jeffrey Wright can barely like speak or hear or anything. He's dying. She is literally bearing her entire soul to him. And it immediately slam cuts because LuuMAY has all the poise and sophistication of fucking hang on, of a fucking Miley Cyrus video. He has all the depth, sophistication, and he slam cuts from the most harrowing scene in the movie to like Spader's engorged, shiny reptilian face, oozing fluids and flapping its lips at a clown makeup Kyra Sedgwick dressed like Sharon Stones from the 1970s. It slam cuts from one of the most emotional moments to fucking pantomime theater of the highest order.
Right. And it's like, and the other thing too is that Spader's character is supposed to have been up for 36 hours.
Right.
And he's
been
about,
up, Matt.
Right.
For 36
right. It's like he's just like, right. It's like a priapism kind of situation where he's just like, I need to get this woman some location where I can just stick my penis in any orifice, anything that will do at this point, whatever will work here. I just need to get there.
I will have a massive coronary if I don't have sex with Kyra Sedgwick right now.
Right, exactly.
I will in fact quite knowingly put my entire life, career, and future on the line for Kyra Sedgwick, which, look, no offense to Kevin Bacon. They live near me, by the way, the Bacons. Or the Sedgwicks. Maybe he took her name. Let's not judge. We don't know. Maybe behind closed doors, he's like, yes, Mrs. Sedgwick. Yes, Mrs. Sedgwick. 3 bags full, Mrs. Sedgwick. Because she's wearing like some sort of series of bags. She's just wearing 3 placed bags. I don't know what they do behind closed doors. That's up to Kevin Bacon and Kyra Sedgwick. They are legally allowed to do whatever they want to on their property as long as they're not hurting or harming another human being or an animal in some sort of sexually deviant way. So I don't know what they call each other. But I'm sorry. I'm sorry. If I'm James Spader, I'm not putting it all on the line for Sedgwick. I don't care how much French lingerie LuuMAY has dolled me up in, because that's LuuMAY. That's got a whiff of Parisian, red light district, Le Pigalle in Paris. Why do you know what the red light district's called in Paris, John? Don't ask that question. No, it's because there's a French movie called La Pigalle. Anyway. Yes, I don't know. I really don't know what I'm saying. Red light districts in Paris. That's where this film should belong, I guess. Because out comes Sedgwick. And then she's really gross about it because she goes, he's all making out with her. And then she goes, now it's your turn. Take off your pants. And suddenly you go, oh, please don't make me see Spader's ass or something. And suddenly your stomach has turned. If Sedgwick had done anything for your stomach, either positively or just neutrally, suddenly your stomach has turned because you've gone, oh, do I have to see Spader's knees?
Right.
Oh, I don't want to see Spader's knees.
Well, the other part of it is that where did he get this idea? He's wearing these bulky basketball sneakers, right? Like,
which allows him to prowl. It's prowling sneakers.
Right, it's what allows him to slither, right? Because they've got like kind of the padding on the heel and stuff, right? So for jumping, right? For being able to jump at a basketball game, he can kind of move around. But the thing is, he tries to take his pants off over these sneakers. Yeah, these sneakers are like 3 times the size of his foot. Like, he's not going to, you need to take, and he realized that,
so that he can do the not very funny pratfall of falling over in his boxer shorts.
Yeah. But the other thing, though, that got me, and I feel like this was Spader improvisation. I don't think SidNEIGH LuuMAY would have directed this or that this was in the script or anything. But
if anything, LuuMAY would have called cut and then removed it from the movie, thus rendering it pointless. Yes,
they're in her apartment and they're at her couch and she just goes, "Oh, hold me!" And she starts crying. She's like, "Oh, please hold me." He has one arm around her back, the other hand firmly placed on her buttocks.
Yes,
right?
Firmly.
And firmly, and it's just like, it's the most, like, for him, almost the most casual thing. Like, of course, I'm holding you and putting your, and she just sort of acts with it, like she just kind of just does it because she's her character is supposed to be seducing him anyway, so she's like, fine, he's doing the work for me, I guess. But when he did that, I was just like, I can't like it just, I don't know that I could imagine another actor doing that in that scene.
But also in the previous scenes before they even got to the dinner scene, which by the way is way more orgasmic than anything that happens in the apartment. But prior to this, we've seen the scene with Kyra Sedgwick in the hospital where they've kind of gone around rooms and they're sort of talking to each other, during which Spader does 3 or 4 of the most unpleasant and unasked for hand touches to parts of Kyra Sedgwick. Like, at this point, he's just a doctor. They haven't asked each other out for a date. There's been no like subtle indication that they want each other or whatever. But he, like a rutting stallion, is all over her like flyers on shit. And he does this sort of, you know what I mean? Like this sort of slithery palm, like the palm lands first and then the hand kind of curves lasciviously around whatever shoulder, rump, buttock, hip, back, or whatever that Spader has decided to cup on this particular instance. But he does this like he does a knee touch, I think. He does a shoulder touch. I think he does like a back pat or something. And it's all obscene. So by the time you then get through dinner, where, I mean, he is, if his underwear is completely full by the end of that dinner conversation, he can barely talk. She's just like, oh my God, I like you so much, and blah, 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 blah. And he's just like, ooh, and like slithering. He kind of goes, yes, and then goes back to clearly just relentlessly climaxing throughout the entire scene. Then they get back to her apartment, and it just goes from bad to worse.
Right. Well, and then like the best part though is like the scene buttoner that we find out that she's recording him. Right. It's like they're in the bed, they're doing whatever they're, and it's this big bulky like handheld like dad on a vacation camera that's like just sitting in the closet there. It's
because they filmed it in LuuMAY's apartment, and he had one of those. He had one of those dad on vacation video cameras. He was like, it doesn't matter. I would just zoom in on that, and that is what it is. I don't even know that LuuMAY's French. He could just be called SidNEIGH LuuMAY. I'm just assuming he's French. I have no idea. I didn't even look him up. That's what a bad podcast host I am.
That's a good question. I wonder if he's... But it's like the camera is this big bulky thing that's flashing this bright red light. Oh, he's actually born in Philadelphia.
Yeah, but was his father Baruch LuuMAY? Oh no, he's from Poland, so he's not French at all.
Right. He's a Philadelphian. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, he's a Jewish from a Jewish family, and okay.
So I think it might be LuuMAY, but I think it's more fun to say LuuMAY.
Yeah, so I've been assuming he's some sort of. Well, of course, now it makes sense. Now it makes sense, because if he was French, he'd have rutting in every movie.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. So okay. I've made a terrible mistake. It was funny though while it lasted. SidNEIGH LuuMAY, but now it's Sidda's LuuMAY.
I wonder if he is
SidNEIGH LuuMAY. Because wasn't Sean Connery in one of his films?
Oh, he's in a few of his films. Yeah. Like
hey SidNEIGH, put me in another one of your films. Sorry, Matt. Go ahead. I don't know what's going on. Stop. You talk.
I wonder if he has I don't know other Philadelphia directors. I don't know if other directors are from Philadelphia. I wonder if he's like the greatest. Like if he's potentially like the,
well, he settled in New York and loves New York. He never made any movies in Philadelphia.
So he's like he's
a traitor to Philly. I feel like Philly has probably cast him aside. They've probably gone, don't come back here, LuuMAY, and expect an honorary fucking doctorate or some shit. We're not giving you the University of Philadelphia is just annex LuuMAY. Oh, make all your films in New York, will you, LuuMAY? All right. Fucking New York. Who do you think you are? Fucking Bogdanovich. Come on now, fucking LuuMAY. You ain't no Bogdanovich.
That's a good. I didn't even consider that fact. Right, he just happens to be born here, but he doesn't care. I'm sure he got out of here the moment he had a chance. That's why
there's no plaques to LuuMAY in Philadelphia. Right. Otherwise, you'd be right. He'd be the first son of Philly filmmaker.
Yeah.
But he's not, because Philly has cast him out. Right. And if you ask anyone in Philadelphia, Matt, tomorrow, if the name SidNEIGH LuuMAY comes up, you may get punched. It's a violent reaction when LuuMAY's name is mentioned.
Yeah, even with my Phillies hat, right?
Yeah.
Like if I
fuck off up to New York, will you? Fuck it, I'm gonna shove a fucking cheesesteak in your tailpipe. I don't miss to besmirch the good name of Philadelphians, but they may have put a cheesesteak in SidNEIGH LuuMAY's tailpipe as he tried to leave the city.
Yeah, I wonder how many I guess Serpico or Dog Day Afternoon would probably be popular where because of Pacino.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know his career, how many of his films are like people in Philadelphia would be he's I wonder they even know who he is. I wonder how many people even know outside of kind of real.
Well, I think his name. I think the the city of Philadelphia, their marketing department, got in touch with the Secret Service and they hushed the whole LuuMAY incident up. Because they just assumed that no one was really watching his films anyway. And because IMDb didn't exist back then, they were just like, all right, whatever. Let's just scrub LuuMAY from the books. It was how they're trying to remove teaching any actual history in history. How in America, Republicans are like, could we just remove the part of history that's actual history? And can we replace it with some sort of faith-based lie madness that was created in 2016 as a marketing ploy? Let's now take that as our rule of thumb, shall we? But anyway, why was I doing that? Why did I go that way?
Well, because in Philadelphia the history books have scrubbed SidNEIGH LuuMAY.
That's right. Yes. So in the way that dozy Republicans are trying to tear out actual history pages from history books, leaving only the forward where the guy relentlessly thanks his wife, because what you don't know is that the guy who wrote the forward cheated on his wife a few months ago, and while she says she's forgiven him, he feels entirely like he's walking on eggshells the whole time that he's at home. So the entire forward of the book, man, the only part of the book that the Republicans leave in the history book, the entire forward is him just trying to mention his wife as much as humanly possible. So years later, when they're fighting in a divorce, he can go, I fucking put you in my book, woman.
Right, exactly.
Anyway, that's a whole, I've given a whole backstory now to the author of the book.
No, and I will say, actually, legitimate director who, he's from India originally, but grew up in Philadelphia, is M. Night Shyamalan, and he actually makes movies in Philadelphia. My wife, I remember she worked at a nightclub. This was before I met her, but she worked at a nightclub that would do cast rap parties for his movies there. No, I don't think he ever showed up, but sometimes it would be like a fourth tier star.
So they're all like, all the Film Society of Philadelphia is just like, fuck you, LuuMAY. We've got Shyamalan, and at least he's fucking financially viable, LuuMAY. What movie of yours ever made money? Critical Care? Fucking shut up. No, it didn't. No, it didn't, LuuMAY. You packed it full of fucking actors like Spader and Mirren, and then you didn't even have an O face from either of them. It's just not acceptable, LuuMAY.
Right.
We've got Shyamalan, and he made The Trees Murderers and The Wind Murderers, and yet he did not successfully kill the career of Mark Wahlberg, Marky Mark. I wish he had done. He managed to kill Zooey Deschanel's career, but not Marky Mark. No. Marky Mark, the racist, gets to keep working for the rest of the life. Not only that, Matt, but do like faith-based comedies. Yeah. Marky Mark, I hate you so much.
Not just that, but he had the audacity to go to the governor of Massachusetts and ask for a pardon for his hate crime. Yeah. And they were just like, but you did it.
Yeah, you actively did it.
Just because the guy forgave you that you beat up, and,
and just because you're telling everyone you found Christ, you big Kevin Sorbo wannabe. Why don't you go full nuts like fucking James Woods or Sorbo? No, you want to quietly pal around with Mel Gibson and act like everything's wonderful and jolly. Yeah. And then on the surface do fucking faith-based comedies. And oh my God, aren't I a big American hero movies with Peter fucking Berg? And that's what you want to do. Wahlberg, you Marky Mark, fucking hand in your pants, moron. I loathe you and everything you stand for. Anyway, previously on Critical Care.
Yeah. Talking about Bostonians, right? Yes. We've got James Spader, who's from Boston, who's a much less controversial Bostonian figure that you can enjoy.
Oh, good segue, Matt. Back from everyone's least favorite human, Marky Mark, to everyone's favorite human who has any fucking common sense, James Spader. And look, we don't know about Spader's crimes, and that's the way it should be. We can only hypothesize at Spader's numerous crimes, and they are numerous, man.
Spader, because Spader is from the upper classes. He knows how to cover up a crime. He's, it has to be like the highest level, like Chappaquiddick kind of crime.
Daddy bought the police station a new wig or something. Yeah,
exactly. Right. You can just imagine he and John Jr. just, boarding around Boston, just getting in all kinds of trouble, and just like, which is again is probably why he seemed like he was 20 years older than he was in the 80s when he was making these movies, because he and John Jr. had lived an entire lifetime.
Yeah, they already understood the stock market. They already knew how to pick out a fine gin. They knew how to hold a brandy glass, and they knew how to beat up on a poor person doing an honest job for an honest, dishonest wage.
But how to find a lady of the night and not get yourself in or her into trouble, right? Yes, exactly. How to avoid any venereal diseases or other issues.
How to pay off abortion doctors by John Jr. and James Spader. Allegedly, this is all a comedy bit. We are not saying that this ever happened. But like I say, you can't say it didn't happen because we have no evidence either way.
We will never know.
And Fox News uses that barometer for fact every night of the week. So because they don't know it didn't happen means it could possibly have happened, even though it most assuredly did not happen. It could have happened, Matt. And therefore, legally, we're in the clear. So anyway... we don't know his crimes, and they are many and various, but we do not know them. We can merely hypothesize. So, yes. Anyway, back to Critical Care. So, it's sort of, it really does sort of lose steam 2/3 of the way in. 2/3 of the way in, you're like, okay, I get it. Farcical, blah, 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 blah. There's some great performances. I do have to call out some absolutely great performances. So, obviously, we've talked about Albert Brooks, James Spader, Helen Mirren. All phenomenal. Jeffrey Wright as well. It's great. Margot Martindale, again, can always be guaranteed to bring some good character actor chops to the proceedings. But the 4 people actually, who I think kind of round out the cast and make this world sort of almost Coen Brothers-esque. And that's Philip Bosco as Dr. Hofstadter, Colin Fiore as Wilson, Edward Herrmann as Robert Payne, and Harvey Aitken as Judge Fatale. And it feels to me like the Coen brothers were brought in to direct the scenes that those actors are in. Because not only are they directed a lot better, but they're sort of Hudsucker Proxy-like.
Yes.
Colin Ferrer talks in a clip. He talks really quickly. Everything like that. Like very kind of like quick-fire 30s reportage kind of stuff. Philip Bosco talks very matter of fact, and he's always like walking and talking and saying things of meaning, and which is sort of a very Coen Brothers-esque thing. And then Edward Herrmann is sort of and almost Albert Brooks as well. They sort of have that repetitive thing that Coen Brothers characters can have, where Edward Herrmann is always like, "Are you sure you told me everything?" Like every time he calls up, that's kind of what he says. Similarly with Albert Brooks, with the constant repetition of like, so anyway, why are you here? How can I help? You paged me. So, I did not. You're making a joke. Blah, blah. Like that thing that he did over and over again to great effect. I felt like Edward Herrmann had that as well. And so, again, I think LuuMAY is the problem here. I really do. I really think LuuMAY is the problem here because I really think that there's some nice things going on and some really nice performances from some really top draw character actors. And apart from James Spader and Anne Bancroft, actually there aren't really sort of leading people in this.
Yeah.
So we should talk about Anne Bancroft and Wallace Shawn, who both represent sort of, I don't know, ideas of heaven and hell. I don't want to say heaven and hell, and I don't want to say God and the devil, because although the movie kind of intimates that, it to me would make that the weakest part. I don't mind the idea that as people are dying, they would see some sort of idealized version of what they think heaven and hell is, probably because we spent our whole lives talking about what our version of heaven and hell is, that as we're dying, we probably just go, here's a good image to give you as you fucking die, big or whatever, right? Because your brain works like that. But I would rather think that than I would think that the film is, because the film also advocates for, choosing to end a life when it is nothing but a life of pain. It advocates for that. It ends with that being the message. So you can't have that being the message and go, and by the way, God says it's okay, because God don't say it's okay. You know what I mean? The only reason we're not allowed to peacefully end our lives, not in utter agony, but surrounded by family, friends, and everybody we'd want to hear, listening to the music we want to listen to and doing whatever, we're not allowed to end our lives that way. Instead, we have to die screaming in pain and agony, costing our families a fortune, and not understanding who we are, where we are, or how to wipe our ass anymore. And apparently, that's a far more dignified way to end. You can see, Matt, which side of the debate I come down on. If I want to kill myself, I should be allowed to at any stage and for any reason. It's not up to the government to decide what I do, as long as my family and everyone sign off on it. So, that's the side of the debate I come down on. That's the side of the debate the movie seems to come down on. So I'm not imbuing the religious part of the film with too much actual religion. But two dying patients and James Spader, who isn't dying, but he sees Anne Bancroft anyway. And of course, typical that James Spader would be like, well, my version of God is Anne Bancroft as a nun. He's like some saucy MILF in a fucking white habit. And Spader's like, that's my idea of God. It's Anne Bancroft. And you're like, yeah, of course it is. Spader's just like antenna up, shoulders out, coming towards Anne Bancroft like some sort of lecherous wasp. But no, so Anne Bancroft in a nun's habit, white nun, Sister of Mercy, big thing, is the epitome of God apparently in this movie. And Wallace Shawn with pig feet, with demon pig feet. Wallace Shawn, little, inconceivable. Right. Wallace Shawn, right. They're like, you can imagine Anne Bancroft and Wallace Shawn show up to do their like days filming or whatever, and they're both there at the same time, right? And it's like, oh, hello, Anne, I haven't seen you in a while. What are you doing here? Oh, I'm playing God. Oh, okay, because seemingly they've cast me, someone who looks like a talking bollock, to be I'm gonna wear pig feet and be a quisling. And so you suddenly go, poor Wallace Shawn. You know what I mean? You can't help it. Like, he looks like how he looks. Like, you know what I mean? Let's not fucking make him feel bad. But no, let's give him deformed fucking feet. And let's make Anne Bancroft look like the most porkable nun since Julie Andrews in... am I the only one who thinks that about Julie Andrews? Anyway...
No, but I know what you mean. Wallace Shawn, it's because the thing about Wallace Shawn, right, is he's just like the other character actors in this, right? It's like this 90s indie feel to it.
Right. Yeah.
Right, probably his greatest role, Wallace Shawn's greatest role, is being the guy listening to his friend in My Dinner with Andre.
Right.
Not being Andre. And it is funny that
I feel like sometimes is our relationship.
Right.
I feel like I'm just banging on about shit, and you're just like, oh God, let him stop.
No. Well, because like he interjects things every once in a while, but it's like, but it's like this idea of like, who do I want to play the devil?
Right.
And it's almost like they go through a Rolodex of like who's available in Toronto or can do this scene. It's like, Wallace Shawn is between projects. Yeah. Maybe let's call him. And okay, I think we could, let's get him in. And I kind of felt the same way about the other character actors, like Edward Herrmann and Bosco and Fiore. It's almost like, it's like you almost get the sense that like it was like I need to get them into another scene. Wait, no, they're off in LA doing, a sitcom or a 90s or something like that. It's like, okay, well, just do the phone call scene. Just do it from wherever, it's like, he's like almost having to work around their schedules because they're so character actor-y. And
also, I think he films like 2 or 3 scenes with each of them and does that all on one set and then just sprinkles those scenes throughout the movie. It's probably that's the way he did it. Like they were probably each in for a week and only Spader was there for the whole time, probably.
Yeah, it makes sense. And and it's like Wallace Shawn in this, it's like it didn't have to be him in that role.
Yeah.
But
it's sort of perfect.
But it's exactly. Yeah. And I mean the other thing from Lumet that I think is interesting is he one of the things I think that we are fortunate with him is that he isn't making movies in the modern age where it's like this sort of washed out digital picture all the time. He's shooting on film in the 90s. And so when he's shooting the scenes where Jeffrey Wright's talking to Wallace Shawn, it's got that red background where it looks like it's like in a dark room or something. And then when he's talking to Anne Bancroft, it's that blue. And it's like, I don't think you could make that work in today's digital washed out color kind of thing. It was one of the few like Lumet moments where it was like where the Lumet worked. And enhance the film, but like you said, like the rest of it's like okay, Anne Bancroft as a hot nut.
He illuminated it. He illuminated it.
Right, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, Lumet, which is Polish for light or something. I don't know. So that's true. I haven't looked. I've watched a ton of Lumet films. And I'd never looked Lumet up because I've cast Lumet. I'm the Philadelphia. I've cast him from my mind. I like some of his movies, and I've seen a lot of them. I've seen all of the ones that we've talked about, Network and Before the Devil Knows You're Dead, and Dog Day Afternoon, and Murder on the Orient Express. I've seen a lot of Lumet films, but I just never had looked into Lumet because, weirdly enough, while obviously Scorsese and Spielberg and Lucas and De Palma and so on are still kicking about doing whatever they're doing, as is Coppola in a way where I kind of wish he wasn't because everyone needs to start ruining Coppola for me. But the fact that his lawyer came out and went, no, it was a legitimate scene in which the director went around and hugged and kissed everyone trying to get them in the mood. Wait, that's your legal argument? Your legal argument that was perfectly legitimate for artists to just kind of molest? I mean, look, all the actors may have signed a waiver that said it was perfectly fine for creepy octogenarian Coppola to come and fucking manhandle them just to apparently get them in the mood. They're actors, Francis. I think they'll figure it out. Oh, you want them to look happy and dance a bit like they're at a party? You don't need to touch them, Coppola, and you don't need to have your lawyer then come out and go, no, nothing to see here. Perfectly normal situation of a director grabbing and kissing his actors.
Well, because it was like, what was it? Jeff Garland, right? The Curb Your Enthusiasm guy who was kind of fired from the Goldbergs because he was gross like that. And his technique was to give people hugs because he's a hugger, right? And it's like nobody wants your overweight schlubbiness. Like like women in their early 20s don't want this overweight schlubbiness hug. Just because you're a hugger doesn't mean the rest of us have to be huggers.
Just don't touch women at work. I mean, how hard is it? How difficult is it? Is it really that difficult? They're like, well, we're artists, so it's different. Our work no. There's no difference about it unless you're in a scene, and in the scene it says man unappealingly grabs woman's buttock. Like maybe that was written. Let's give James Spader, bring it back, James Spader, a fair crack of the whip. Maybe it said in the script, hand on buttock. Let's just go there. Or maybe Lumet on the set was like, Spades, just a little lower, mate. Come on. Gotta get some rump in there. But I think the one thing we haven't met is that the reason why the movie works up until the point where you kind of realize that it was all a sham, which you knew it was, but the reason why you question that it's not a sham is that you believe in a world where a woman would just instantly be into James Spader. Like if you don't cast, it's very interesting, right? If you don't cast James Spader in this role, right? There aren't many other actors at that time in that era that you could cast that then it is completely believable that any single woman in a 10-mile radius is ready to go, because you are meant to believe, and Spader is behaving like he's the cat who's got the cream. He did this smooth as anything. Look at me ooze my way into this 1960s suburbanite who moonlights on the weekend as a trolley dolly in the sky, right? Politically incorrect. John Cross used the phrase trolley dolly. Oh, fuck off. Anyway.
Right. Well,
you have to believe in the sexuality of Spader in order for you to get to the point where you're like, oh, okay, no, it was all a scam. Otherwise, the moment Sedgwick walked in, you'd go scam, scam, scam alert, scam. You know what I mean? You'd immediately, it would just go blah, 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 scam. But because you go, well, actually, maybe the point of this movie is just that Spader gets to sleaze over everybody because it's the point of so many of his movies.
Right, I agree with you there. Because that's what I was thinking until I see this big blocky camera flashing red, like a ship coming to port, and it's like this, like, you know. But the other thing too is, I remember one time when we used to do trivia nights at this bar in Portland, Maine, Margaritas, and I remember these two like kind of schlubbier, slightly older guys had two of these hot blonde women with them as dates. And it didn't make any sense to us, but we're just kind of doing our trivia night or whatever. And the woman who was going around like checking people's answers or whatever, we overhear her. There's a question about like which artery is the biggest in the body. And I think it was like the ephemeral or something like that. It was like something, whatever. And we overhear her say,
ephemeral?
Right. I think it was the ephemeral artery or the aorta.
It's in the femoral artery.
I think it's the one. I think
ephemeral is like when it's like wispy and on the wind.
What is this? The artery in your thigh? I thought it was the ephemeral, but
I have no idea.
It's something.
Fennel.
But the fennel.
It's made of fennel.
It's where all the
fennel goes.
Right. Yeah. Whatever it was, whatever the artery was, whatever the answer was, I overhear this woman who's doing the trivia.
We know nothing of biology.
Right, exactly. No, well, go through that. But she says to these two guys, "Oh, being doctors, you probably knew the answer to that." And it's like, oh, that's why these really hot women are with these two schlubby guys, because they're So there is that thing there, and it felt.
So
like
you're saying the doctor thing alone could have carried it.
Exactly.
I think you need Spader.
You need Spader too. But I think Spader plus Doctor.
Oh, Spader plus Doctor is fucking, rocket to the moon.
Sedgwick.
Yes.
Right. I mean, I think you're right. Like, the movie would have been better without the sort of like the whole Kira Sedgwick scamming him thing.
Yeah.
If it was just like the whole dilemma between the two of them, the two sisters debating over whether or not the father dies.
Right.
And Spader in the middle of all this, like, he's at work and he's like dealing with the dilemma himself. Because it's enough of a dilemma, right? That like, okay, I think this guy should die, but one daughter thinks he shouldn't. The other one, that's like enough of a dilemma. And then while that's happening, he's having sex with Kira Sedgwick, bringing a couple of character actresses that he can also have sex with, maybe Helen Mirren, where we get that Helen Mirren sequence. Yeah. Like he's just going around having sex with people.
3 Helen Mirren sequences, Matt. I've sat down to watch Critical Care, which I'm being told has James Spader and Helen Mirren in it. I expect 3, minimum 3 sexual scenes with him. LuuMAY, 0.
Well, because the one thing about Helen Mirren as an actress, I think, more than Kira Sedgwick, more than a lot of the actresses, Charlize Theron, whoever we've seen act with Spader when they've actually had love scenes, Helen Mirren seemed to like understand the sleaze Spader part.
Oh,
and
she understood
it's like she enjoyed acting opposite. It seemed like she was
laying down.
Right, she was up to the task, and we needed a payoff there. I think.
See. Mirren is up to the task. There are very few people that Spader's been cast opposite, where you're like, oh, she is his equal. Sarandon, maybe.
Yeah.
Now, they're both wrong for that movie.
Right.
But as Hollywood actors of a certain age and a certain look and feel with a certain on-screen sensuality that you can't describe, don't want to describe, and kind of enjoy, Sarandon and Spader are pretty strong on that list.
Yeah.
But yeah, Mirren is in another stratosphere. She is a super goddess of the highest order, and long may she reign as queen of our hearts and of our bits. I almost said boners then, but I thought it was a little too on the cock, on the nose. But anyway, she likes it on the nose. I don't know that. That's unconfirmed. Unconfirmed. We've heard that they've said. That's how you get away with it these days. Right. That's how the news. We've heard that they've said
breaking news.
Yeah, breaking news.
For people that are listening, right? If you do the Patreon, you can see the video. We can do the chyron flashing across the screen. Breaking news. We've heard that they said.
We've heard that they
Helen
said.
Mirren likes it on the nose, and then underneath it, we've heard that they say.
We've heard that they say that. Who are they? We're not telling you. And who are we? We've no idea.
Right. I've stopped watching the news channels, but like for whatever reason, establishments like to have them on. Yes. And it's like you go in there and it's like everything is breaking news, and it's like this isn't breaking news. This happened 4 days ago. Yeah. Like how can you have the chyron? It's like I can only imagine for people that watch those news programs, those news channels like MSNBC, Fox, whatever it is, on a regular basis. Like they must just be in this heightened like Spader. Like kind of the way Spader's heightened in the sexuality sense in his roles, they must be in this like heightened like news like scent where it's
they're hyper vigilant to any news that's happening at all times. Yeah. Because think about working in a newsroom, Matt. Not only would you be confronted with the news, but like all of us, whether we want to or not, our iPhones are telling us the news. Yeah. I didn't ask for it. Oh, no. You're just popping up news alerts. Why? How do I turn these off? Oh, wait, you can't turn them off. So, right? Because they've got fucking, advertising companies and shit. So news on your iPhone. You go into Facebook. There's fucking trending topics and news items, and people are posting news memes, and you're being advertised news channels about news things. And Bill Maher's fucking video keeps popping up where he's high talking about cancel culture, and you want to punch him in the neck because he won't let the other person speak. And I feel like that's who I'm becoming. Sorry, Matt. I hope people aren't listening to this and being like, John's become a right Bill Maher lately. I hope that's not the case, but maybe it is. Oh my God, is that who I'm becoming? I'm sad, Matt. I'm sad. Anyway, and then you go on Twitter or whatever they call it now, the Muskathon, and it's filled with a scrolling thing of the news. You go to Google just to look up the best pie pastry recipe with the shortest description of the blogger's fucking trip to Venice or wherever the fuck they discovered how to make pastry in the first place, and how many fucking children they have, and that their husband's craft brewery is doing really well. We don't care about any of that. Fuck? We just get to the pastry thing. You go to Google that, Matt, and you get fucking news, whether you like it or not. So we're constantly bombarded with news. And even if you don't put it on the TV screen, you'll go to an airport somewhere and they'll be showing the fucking
the airport's
news.
The worst too.
Because you're like, why would I want to watch? If I'm at the airport, you should have fucking cartoons. Just show me fucking Bugs Bunny.
Hanna-Barbera.
Yes, Hanna-Barbera, Tom and Jerry.
Hanna-Barbera, just all Hanna-Barbera. It should be Flintstones,
yes,
Jetsons,
Captain
Wacky
Caveman.
Races. Captain Caveman. Yeah. That's all. Yeah, I agree with you. We need to talk to Pete Buttigieg. I think, this Department of Transportation.
Come on, Buttigieg.
Yeah,
come on.
Yeah, that's
come
it. On, no news.
Fuck the news.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So, but except that Buttigieg suckles at the media teat, and so therefore he will never remove the news from airports. Yeah. But listen, I've got nothing against Buttigieg. Everyone has to suckle at the media teat sometimes. But I'm just saying, they're not the people who are going to take down big media because they fucking need big media.
Right.
Because otherwise they're irrelevant people. Right. I was going to say they're irrelevant public servants, but they don't serve the public. And that makes them even more. It means they can't even do that simple task properly. So enough of these people. But LuuMAY, by the way, is so happy that critical care has brought out this sort of social analyzing and cultural commentating. LuuMAY is like, I told you, this film brings out the discussions of life and the nature of politics and everything else. I'm like, no, LuuMAY, it's just what's on everyone's mind.
What's fascinating when you look at LuuMAY stuff like this, so like you've got critical care. What was, I'm trying to remember, because obviously network with TV and the news, right? And then, why can't I think of the
Guilty of Sin was the
Guilty
law one.
Was the law,
putting the law on trial.
Exactly. All of these things, had all of these like ideas about how horrible the things were then.
Yes.
And it's like 25, 30, or in the case of network, like I guess it's like 50 years later, it's only gotten worse, right? It's like not like Lumet, for all of his like shining a light on how horrible these things are. They're only worse now. They're it's like
but that's almost the power of Lumet. Right. Maybe the character arc, Matt, that I'm on in this show is that I start off thinking Lumet is a French hack and end up realizing that Lumet is the Polish genius New Yorker who's shunned by Philly, that he is. And in the middle, I temporarily become Bill Maher, but I come out of being Bill Maher and I go back to being John Cross again. And I kind of like SidNEIGH LuuMAY. How about that for a character arc? Nobody saw it coming, but we wove that throughout the episode seamlessly. None of you noticed. There's a big Philly-like Shyamalan twist to the ending of this podcast, Matt. How about that? We've woven it throughout the whole show. Callbacks, there's MacGuffins, we've got Occam's razor, and what's the other thing? Chekhov's hat, or whatever it is. By the way, I also said we were going to do questions from people. We haven't done any of the questions yet. That's
right, because we were going to do one and then one in the middle.
But anyway, but let's wrap up Critical Care, because let's keep talking about. I think the reason why he goes with the side story of the battle between the two daughters is to make legal and especially legal around the healthcare satire, because otherwise, how would you get that in? If the hospital wasn't being sued, you know what I mean?
I think you still could have done it without it being like Spader is...
Oh, where the hospital's just being sued.
Right, the hospital could just be sued. And
you just don't like that Spader got tricked. That's what you don't like.
Because I think, like you said, like instead of... It could have just been him. Him just hooking up with Sedgwick, him just hooking up with whoever else.
Right.
Like that could have been enough for this movie.
You felt like it weakened him.
Right, because what we get at the end...
It declawed him. It de-pantherized him.
Exactly, and it created this like tension that I think we could have had enough fun tension with Comfiore, like with his like you said, his like kind of staccato speed, and Ed Herman with his questioning of
constant
him and
pressuring of television.
I mean just that scene that Spader's in, where Spader's sitting there and you've got these three great character actors there that are just like dripping the whole room, that whole like conference, wherever they are, it's just dripping with character actorness. And then here's Spader like just oozing around with his
blobbing
like
about like a huge globule of flesh.
Yeah, drinking out of like tiny coffee. Like what I love is that like these lawyers, he knows he's about to get questioned by these lawyers, and they ask him if he wants anything. He goes like, "Yeah, I'll have a tiny cup of coffee." It's like and here's Herman just like pouring him this tiny cup of coffee.
Espresso, please.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and it's like, and he's just sitting
I've had 85, yet I still haven't been able to do anything other than slouch around in my lounge suit.
Right, exactly, but it created a tension that I think. Because the problem is it created a tension that we then had to
rectify. Yes, you're right. Yes, the rectification of it is gobbledygook that no judge in a million years would ever allow.
Right, and we didn't even like if it had been more of like him just convincing the two sisters to come around on their own, like just without it like having to be like he needed to save his career. I mean, because there's other commentaries about like the student loans, which have gotten way worse for doctors, and all the other things that could still have been a commentary without it being like his career was on the line because he hooked up with Sedgwick. Like he should just be hooking up with whoever he hooks up with, and nothing should be on the line for him.
So what we're hearing is that Matt is quite upset that essentially Spader's sheer magnetism was clipped by Sedgwick's apparently tricking him out with a dad video camera from everyone's worst family holidays. No, stand here, John. Stand here. Oh, what is it you got in the gift shop? I got a pencil, Dad. Show me the pencil. Show me the pencil. Well, it's just a pencil, Dad. No, but show me the pencil. So you stand there, a little boy, like holding a pencil, not really understanding what he's going.
Yeah.
Right, now walk over there by the seashells. Walk over there by the beach. Yes. Why am I going over there? Mum's driving me off to... No, go over there by the beach. I'm going to film you on the beach. You're having a good time. All right, you're doing it wrong.
I'm going to film it again. And I was like, I don't care how tired Spader was or how obsessed he was with having sex with Sedgwick. there's no way he's missing that flashing red light. Like that just was so huge. And the whole thing was just so big anyway. But it's like, yeah.
What about the fact that during the sex scene, or in the lead up to the sex scene, as he continued to try and convince her, first of all, he's slithering up behind her.
Yeah.
So and secondly, he's panting so insanely heavily. Like, I'm trying to think, there's lots of Spader movies where he's just like, I'm having sex and I'm having sex right now. But there's not many Spader movies, because he normally then just has sex. And you're just like, okay. Yeah. There's not many Spader movies where he is so physically engorged that his breath has become short. And it gets to the point where, like, Cedric is like, and do this for me. And he just goes, yes, okay. And it's like, oh my God, is he about to, pass out from a lung disease? What is going on?
He's like groping her and kissing her. And she's like, well, what should I do about my dad? Like, your dad. He's in a vegetative state, and it's like this whole thing. And it's like, and then like the best is
it's funny, but at the same time, it's utterly unnerving and depressing and scary and awful.
But then even worse is that when he finds out he's being blackmailed, he gets this like drab brown paper package at the hospital. Yeah. He goes to the hospital library and just pops it in the VCR.
We know what the volume up as loud as possible.
Right? And it's just like, and the thing is, like, she edited it. Like, it's like
that's right. Yeah, she took it to a.
So it's like
she got out her jog shuttle and a fucking editing system. She got her 2 SVHS tape machines. She's like, I'm going to show him.
Right.
Like, going to a lot. You're going to Cedric. This is a lot.
Right. Just to blackmail Spader. Yeah. And he's just watching it, like, and then of course the best thing too is he goes back to her place to like confront her about this. And it's like, and she's like telling him her plan is she wants him to pull the plug. And it's like, you're in this house that you're being filmed in.
Right.
And it's like, why would you go? You just found out that you're being filmed. Why would you do? She told you.
Well, he's wearing his Cubs jacket.
Right, or Chicago Bulls jacket.
Chicago Bulls jacket. Sorry, he's wearing a Chicago Bulls jacket. So it's like, Matt, once the movie moved into the Chicago Bulls jacket territory, it lost me. Because you simply cannot put Spader in a jacket that removes his feline nature. Suddenly he's like the RoboCop or the Michelin Man. He can't slither anymore.
The Michelin Man. Because it's like, for people who don't know what this jacket is, this is like a hip hop video from
enormous,
the 90s.
Yes.
It's like this oversized, like he needed like a beanie or a skull and just kind of like be like kind of doing like all the hip hop.
He needed a giant clock around his neck,
exactly,
and to be spitting rhymes in a warehouse somewhere. It was ludicrous, Matt. It had a giant leather collar. It even restricted his neck. Like he was so, once he put it on, and maybe again, Matt, this is Lumet's genius. And maybe again, I'm realizing that the Chicago Bulls jacket, of which I found so dangerously hilarious, was really a straitjacket.
Right.
It was Spader's cocoon, from which in the last scene, he will emerge a pure and righteous doctor who watches skateboarders from afar, and when one of them beefs it, runs over and goes, "Don't worry, young boy, you're in good hands now." To which the boy goes, "Oh no," and then it ends. That's not how it ends, but that's what I thought it ended.
Well, he does ask him, he goes, "Are you a doctor?" And Spader's like, "Yes, I'm a doctor." Right.
Every dad watching this with his daughter went, "That is not a doctor, darling. Do not trust that man. Never go home with that man. Never go into a grey breeze block room with that man.
Yeah.
Never go anywhere. Never lie down on a bed in a gown for that man. That man is not a doctor." But Daddy, in the movie, that man is not a doctor. Don't go anywhere near James Spader. He will pounce on you like a stag in heat, frolicking in a woodland glade.
Right. Well, because he wears that jacket to like the big finale denouement thing, which is hilarious too, because he
goes into a lawyer's office wearing a fucking Chicago Bulls jacket. Sorry,
Well, no, because like he talks to Anne Bancroft and he gets this idea from her that like,
Holy God.
Right. It's like this idea of like, oh, well, if you love this character, the guy who's dying, you're the doctor, you're supposed to care, right? If you loved him, if you cared for him, you would do whatever. And so the next scene is them all sitting around this big conference table to have the hearing about whether or not to pull the plug or whatever.
Right.
And
to put in the feeding tube.
Put in the feeding, right? Exactly. Put in the feeding. That's right. Yeah. And here, Spader just waltzes in like this kind of like before the plane takes off, kind of like stop, don't get on the plane, honey, I'm here.
Yes.
He walks in and is like doing his big speech with his like his Chicago Bulls jacket on.
Yeah.
Like
to which the lawyers kind of like clearly go, wait a minute. The lawyers on both sides, by the way, go, wait a minute. Are you really going to allow this to continue? To which the judge, looking like, a comedy character from a bad end of a Woody Allen movie, looks up and goes, no, let the young boy continue. I think we should hear what he has to say. I'm like, said no judge ever. Judges are sat there being like, I don't want to hear another person say another thing about another thing. This guy's guilty, sling his hook, next case. That's what judges are thinking. But this judge looks up and goes, no, I think we should let Mr. Chicago Bulls straitjacket speak. And then he gets 3 chances, Matt. Like, he starts to speak, and then he like dwindles off. And then they're like, all right, let's go back to the trial then. He goes, no, wait, I want to say more things. At which point you'd be like, dude, you got one chance, mate. One chance. He gets 3 chances.
Yeah.
And then when he does do the speech, Spader would get much better at speechifying in the Boston legal years.
Yes.
He is out of his depth with the speech here that he has to give, I feel like.
Yeah.
It needed a walk-in. Like, it's weird. Spader needed to exit the picture. It needed to become Walken. Can you imagine Walken saying, and over here, the lawyers, and the insurance companies, nobody likes these guys. Fuck them. We're going to move on. Like, you can imagine, like, it would just have so much more pizzazz. Or William Shatner. William Shatner equally would have been great at just standing on ceremony and waffling off what's wrong with the healthcare industry.
Yeah, I can't imagine either of them wearing that Bulls jacket either. No. Like they would have come in.
No, Shatner would take one look at it and be like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'm going to wear a $40,000 suit that barely fits around my paunch. And I'm going to have a woman half my age on my arm. But that's, Bill, that's not how this works. That's how this works if you want to have the Shat Man in your fucking... Do you really call yourself the Shat Man? That sounds a bit like Poo Man or Shit Man. I'm the Shat Man. I demand a woman half my age and a $40,000 suit to be draped across my porcine figure.
Yeah, well, because can you imagine? Because then, right, he convinces the judge to have everybody clear out of the room. So he's just talking to the 2 sisters, so Kira Sedgwick and the other sister, and that's the other piece. The judge is just like, well, what's the worst that can happen if we just
the judge leaves him alone with the the plaintiff and the accusant or whatever it's called.
Yeah. Right, yeah. And
I was like, wait, this judge is just having a laugh. This judge is probably, it would make sense if you saw the judge go out into his chambers and the nurse from earlier, the one that walked past Spader and he'd pounced up, the nurse from earlier walked past and the judge just went, and like scurried off after the nurse. I didn't even
think of that. That makes plenty of sense.
That would be Chekhov's nurse.
In his head, he's thinking like, I'm going to go hook up with this woman.
Yes.
Recess for 30 minutes while I go hook up. Right. It makes more sense than just what actually happens where he's like, what's the worst that can happen if we just postpone this for a half hour?
Oh, wait. He's going to make sure that both daughters get $5 million and that he gets off scot-free. And not only gets off scot-free, but is able to kill the patient he's been wanting to kill since the beginning of the movie. That's how this film wraps itself up. It goes, everyone gets $5 million and James Spader gets to basically be fucking king of his own domain.
But he gets one great sleazy moment when Kira Sedgwick. So first the other sister Constance signs the
Margot Martindale.
But she signs the contract. She agrees to it first. So now Kira Sedgwick's stuck because she knows if she doesn't sign it as well, that he's going to be he'll take care of the other sister. So she's wearing this red leather skirt and leather jacket outfit. And she walks over to sign, and she's bent over.
She's finally entered the early 80s in terms of what she's dressed. She's gone from 1964 to 1984. She basically looks like something Diane Lane would wear in Streets of Fire. That's basically what she's wearing. Yeah.
Right, you're right. We're only 10 years away now from the modern period with this outfit that she's got on.
Yeah.
And she bends over right in front of him to make sure he gets like one last look.
Yes.
And he makes sure he gets one last look.
Oh,
while she's signing, he's just sitting there just...
His eyes boring into her anus.
And he's eyeing the whole time he's staring. And it's like, it was as good as the buttocks cupped scene earlier. I mean, he's just like,
Because I'm surprised. I'm genuinely surprised that right at that moment when Spader had almost got everything that he wanted, he didn't fuck it all up by just very delicately putting all 4 fingers and a thumb just on the tip of the curve of her buttock, just enough that she would feel it. And by doing that, because he just couldn't help himself, Matt, because he had convinced himself in a loose state that he could get away with anything, that he could even get away with the ending of this movie, that someone would even believe the ending of this movie. Spader is at this point reborn because he's gone from being, a puffed up catfish to being reduced down to a small little tadpole to then being back up again as king and master of all he surveys. Lord High Almighty, being able to just be like, sign this thing and I'll kill your dad. You know what I mean? Because that's how the law works, apparently. I'll just sign this and make me the power of attorney. I'm off to kill your dad. And so it's remarkable. He even sells the end of this movie, but I forget where was. I keep forgetting where I was going. Where was I going with that whole bit about Spader? Oh yeah, he's been like reborn. He's come back to the full Spaderness, and we're happy to see it. Like we wanted it to end that way, and that's when LuuMAY, you could have thrown in the Mirren scene right there. You could have had him. He gets a kiss from her, but I think he would have fucked it all up because I think he would have looked at Cairo Segwich's tushy, as he would call it, and he'd be like, "Oh my dear," and then he would like place like a octopus sucker cup, just place the 4 fingers and a thumb right on her plastic leatherette behind. It would have creaked ever so slightly. She would have looked behind. The whole thing would be off. Yeah. She would release the tape, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean,
because that's how it should have ended. But instead, he gets to slink off the hero of many children.
Well, he gets one great last line after he pulls the plug, which I wonder if that was his line. I feel like they could not have been in the script. Like when he pulls the plug and he's there with Helen Mirren, and she says something about like how tomorrow's just another day, and he says something along the lines of no, actually, it's going to be National Pickle Week or something like that, right? And it's like, where did that come from?
That was Chekhov's Pickle Week. So back at the beginning of the movie, him and Helen Mirren are discussing her calendar. Yeah. And she makes some comment about how it's National Pickle Week next week.
I forgot all about that. So, okay, that makes... I just thought he just threw that out there.
No, it's Chekhov's Pickle Week.
Oh my God, I completely forgot about that. So that's we know what happened with this movie.
That's him basically saying, next week during Pickle Week, I am fucking you. Like that's basically the end of that movie is him being like, Helen, if you think you got out of this unscathed, next week is National Pickle Week. And Jimmy's Pickle is on the prowl. That's what he's saying. That's what it means.
Yeah.
And then she's going to see him save the kid and be all noble. It's all a plan, Matt. Yeah. It's all a plan. The sequel to this movie would have been a Spader Mirren bong fest.
Cronenberg needed to direct the sequel to this movie.
Critical care.
I mean, the set was so Cronenberg. Like between the fact that people, the beds were inflatable. So everybody's in these like inflatable air mattresses. That's what the beds were in the hospital. I mean, that's so Cronenberg, right? Like to have an inflatable air mattress.
Well, they
bed.
were sort of. They also had like what we call lilos, which are those inflatable things you sit on swimming pools on.
Right.
I don't know what you call them. We call them like lilos. I don't know why it's like that.
I don't know what we call them. Like things that float in the pool. Yeah. Like pool
floats,
toys
whatever.
or something. Yeah. I don't know.
But those chairs, it was like a stack of those, then surrounded by a sort of bubble casing, some sort of like giant organic. Like Cronenberg would have made the beds organic.
Yes,
like you would lie on them, they would look all rubberized, but then they would be like and be like talking to the people, being like, I like it when your bed sores drip on me, and you'd be like, oh, that's disgusting. Why would you do that? And then you're like, oh yes, I'm watching a Cronenberg movie, and then it would like sprout a little penis that's really a vagina or some fucking metaphor for his parents who he never understood, and and then someone would show up naked, her head would fall off, blood would squirt everywhere, Oliver Reed would cry, and the movie would end, and he'd be like, I know I watched something, I just don't know what it is I watched. A lot of Canadian madness, I think.
Yes.
But if you'd had Helen, imagine Critical Care does so well that coming to your screens next year is David Cronenberg and James Spaders. Like they take equal billing above the title, because make no mistake, Matt, the success of Critical Care has led to Spader's ego believing he can do anything. And him and Cronenberg are going to make the most twisted, like beds that eat and molest and have sex with you, like beds, like the beds would become organic, and all these like people on death row essentially would start to be like reinvigorated sexually for the last time in their lives. And Cronenberg would go on really important documentary style TV shows, and he would talk about how the aged are not seen in our society, and the aged people can like fall in love and want sex too or something. Like he would rationalize it, Matt, with some kind of Canadian wizardry, but we'd know what he was doing. He just wanted to have Mirren and Spader and the organic beds that all the people are now living in because they're connected to it via giant Existenz style tubes, and they're all just like it's like the Matrix, where Neo gets out of the tube in the real world and he's like covered in Cronenbergian goo. Well, that's what this is like. Jeffrey Wright who's still alive because somehow someone's brought his head back to life and stuck it on the Eraserhead baby or something. And I don't know why that would happen, but they're still trying to like pump fluids through him, even though he has like a tiny snake body. This is Critical Care too, and I would have fucking paid millions of dollars to see this. Meanwhile, Spader and Mirren are just having sex on every surface imaginable.
Oh, it would have. I mean, Cronenberg would have had. Like things like the break room, because like the break room in this, I'd say,
it cried for a sex scene with Mirren and Spader. It just ached for it.
I mean, every time he goes into the break room, you see this box of Captain Crunch, right? And it just would have been so amazing if like they just kind of fall into it, and the Captain Crunch is all over the place while they're having sex, and it's like Helen Mirren's like, aren't you going to pick that up? And no, we're having sex right now.
And as they're having sex. In between them, so they're like having sex set up, and in between them, LuuMAY has Captain Crunch flying up in between them, and milk, and all sorts of
well, because the way
in slow motion, it's Captain Crunch, and the Captain Crunch box just like floats past the camera, and it suddenly becomes like a Ken Russell scene. And Anne Bancroft shows up and does a dance in baked beans in the background. Anyway,
well, because I mean, every time they go into that room, everything in the room is like white and like kind of like there's like some of those like surgical greens or like what are those seafoam greens or whatever, and it's like kind of muted colors. And then there's this bright red Captain Crunch box that's on the table.
It's going to be there for a reason.
It's there every. I mean, I guess Captain Crunch maybe funded the film or something, but.
This is where we should start a conspiracy blog on what's still a blog. Well, Blogger doesn't really. I mean, it exists, but people don't really. Except you work on Blogger, right?
Blogspot. Yeah,
I like Blogspot. But I mean, is there a community on Blogspot though? Is it
no? So like nobody comments on my posts anymore. They comment on Facebook.
Tumblr is the thing, right? That still has.
No, Tumblr's been dead. So Tumblr's actually more of a graveyard than, because at least with Blogger they're kind of websites,
right?
And then like people comment on Facebook or Instagram about the movies. Right. But like Tumblr is a fascinating one because it is like, most Tumblr accounts haven't posted since like 2014.
But it had quite a community.
But originally it did though. Yeah, it had definitely at that.
Well, what happened was they removed the porn.
Right, exactly.
No, but they did. They removed the porn, and Tumblr has never been successful since.
But it's not just that they removed the porn. It's like you could post a Godard film that has like a woman like lightly clothed, like not even naked, but lightly clothed, and they'll be like, "Oh, you tripped the porn censor," and it's like. Yeah. Do I want to go through the whole? I posted this film, from some 80s Godard film. I posted it 10 years ago. Do I want to go through the trouble of like having, filing an appeal? It's just fine. Take it down. I don't care.
Don't care anymore.
Whatever.
Right. But that's the thing is they've removed nipples from the internet unless you go on porn sites. Like this is what happens where in this kind of American situation. You overcorrect on one end, right? Where you go, well, there's going to be no nipples on social media anywhere, right? You do weird shit and this happened on Joe Bob Briggs last week, where on Shudder, Joe Bob Briggs and Darcy the Mail Girl, who, by her own admission has been a porn star and a stripper and whatever, right? And is, by the way, hugely sex positive about it, like hugely... okay with it and positive and feminist about it.
Yeah.
Loves nudity, thinks nudity is fantastic. They were showing Graduation Day, a movie that has nudity in it, a lot of nudity in it. And she was not allowed. She wanted to do this parody of a graduation ceremony for her. Darcy
right. I remember, on Twitter she was talking about that. Yeah.
She wasn't allowed to flash. I haven't seen the end of the episode, so I don't know if they do something else or whatever. But I'm only halfway through the episode, but she's not allowed to flash. And she goes, but wait, the movies we're showing tonight have nudity in them. And he's like, yes, but that it's weird that's okay, but you can't do it here in the studio, right? So we either have that on one side, right? Where it's like, we're just going to puritanically police the internet for nipples, not for... dangerous, seditious ideas, not for, racism, not for violence against children or sexual acts against children, just for nipples on fucking Instagram and Tumblr, right? So we're going to do that. And then on the other hand, we're going to make it that if you go to a porn site, not only is it tantamount to having your computer hacked, but the porn that is all over the site is the most hardcore, the most grotesque, the running ads above it are just here is an enormous bukkake scene featuring a donkey. And you're like, wait, I just was coming on to see if I could see nipples because I just wanted to see some nipples. And because nipples have been banned from everywhere else, I have to have a, rusty trombone thrust in my face. And I've got no interest in that, Matthew. No interest whatsoever. But that's where we're at. We're in a bridge between two extremes. Yeah. So as is Spader throughout this entire movie, a bridge between two Spaders. And I think finally though, Matt, I get a feeling from the last scene in the movie that his wings have been somewhat clipped. And so you do leave this movie thinking, I never want to see a clipped Spader again. Yeah. And luckily, after this movie, I think Spader just goes hell for leather into the ridiculous flopping about and pursing his lips thing. Because he goes, well, you remember when I did this in the 90s and it was sexy and charming? How about I do it now that I'm in my 60s? What do you think about that? And people are like, I'm repulsed by it. I'm endlessly repulsed by it. And yet I cannot look away. I am repulsed by it, but please, by all means, have 10 seasons of The Blacklist. You've earned it, Jimmy. Or how many seasons did it have? I
think you're right. I think it's
10 years. 218 episodes.
I mean, that's amazing. It is amazing when you think of what shows, like especially like these network TV shows, they just seem to go on. Like it's like if they make it past a certain threshold, they just stay forever. You know, it's like if you can get past like season 2. I mean, I think even Belushi's show went 10 years. I think, right?
It went 8 years.
According to 8 years.
They gave, according to Jim, 8 years.
Yeah.
I mean, they gave Frasier 11. So
Frasier 11. Like I enjoy Frasier as like a kind of a thing on the background.
Right.
But it's like when you watch Frasier, it's just, what can, Frasier and Niles say in their hoity-toity kind of voices that's like both shows them as being schlubby goofballs and sophisticated, psychiatrists.
Right.
And then there's the dad, and then there's Daphne saying something with an English accent that's, endearing and cute and funny, and Niles wants to bang her. And
over 250 episodes out of that premise.
That whole premise, and it's just, let's go see Roz at the coffee shop.
Good for them. Good for them. All right, Matt, so I think we've well and truly talked about critical care. I think I've rethought it, and now I believe that LuuMAY is a bit of a genius. Yeah. But you have to listen to this whole podcast first to realize why LuuMAY is a genius and why my character arc in this episode has been so expertly woven by Matthew and ourselves by use of some kind of wonderful improv telepathy that we have brought ourselves here. It is much like one of the more recent podcasts we did, Matt, where the story of my Hollywood video nemesis came back at the end of the podcast. People don't realize that what we're doing here, Matt, is performance art at its very highest. And if people haven't figured that out yet, that's maybe why I haven't won even a Rondo award. And my friends could write me in for one of those. Or I've been doing this many years, Matt, and no one's ever written me in for a Rondo award.
What is it? Is that podcasting?
Who knows what they are? They're just something that happened online. They send out a little weird Rondo head, clay Rondo head to the winners. All sorts of people get nominated. You can just write it in, Matt. And as long as you keep writing it in. Yeah. And yet no one's ever written me in, Matt. Yeah. No one's ever written me in. And so to hell with it. But we are going to wrap this up now by answering these questions. And I also have a pump up the volume style rant to end the episode. Yeah, I made an eBay sale while we've been talking.
Oh, nice. Well, that's always good.
Someone bought You Got Served on VHS, still sealed.
Nice. That's awesome.
You got served. You got served. So, Matt, are you happy that we ended this discussion of critical care actually rather liking the movie? Are you happy that's where we ended up?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of, for me, it had that feel of like a, 90s indie kind of nostalgia thing that I enjoyed with it. I mean, the whole denouement, like the resolution was a little bit far-fetched, but overall, it was the kind of Spader that you're looking for. I mean, like you said, his wings get clipped, and that's not the best thing, but it's a fun Spader kind of romp, I guess. I don't know if romp is the right word. Yeah.
No, I mean, as I said, the first hour I think is its strongest moments. Certainly, the first 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So we are now going to go to the question section. The Andy Lunn question section, although my wife Kimberly has also asked a question. All right, so Andy Lunn and my wife had actually sort of asked the same question. So Kim asked, each of you please give an example of what you think Spader should do next / what should his next project be? And Andy Lunn says, now that the Blacklist is finished, what do you think Spader should embark on next? So it's basically the same question, more or less. So Matt, what would you like to see Spader do going forward?
I mean, after this episode, I wouldn't have thought this coming into this episode, but I kind of like the idea of him and Mirren doing Critical Care 2, directed by David Cronenberg. I kind of like that. I mean, the other thing,
because Cronenberg needs a hit as well. He needs a comeback.
Yeah.
They all need a comeback, I think. Except Mirren, who shines on eternally.
Well, that's the question. Is right. Would Mirren want to do it? But if she
Mirren's been in Fast and Furious 10, Matt. Right. Mirren's down for anything. I think Mirren has proven time and time again that there is no land on which Mirren will not walk and conquer by her sheer radiance and wonderfulness.
Yeah, I mean, I think, maybe even bring in some people from Crash. I mean, Elias Koteas, I feel like I
I think we could see Kara Dabra Harbor. Carbadabra Harbor, which is what people from Maine call Deborah Kara Unga. I mean, who the fuck, Matt, is called Deborah Kara Unga?
Yeah.
And why should she be resigned to the 90s?
Right.
A new thesis coming soon to direct-to-video connoisseur. So, yes, I think that definitely Critical Care 2, I would love to see that. But in general, I would love to see Spader return to... I want Netflix to give Spader the Adam Sandler treatment and basically allow Spader to make whatever he wants to make. But he's only given like a couple of $1 million. So he can call in a friend's favor, right? Yeah. So all of his movies will have like one favor from someone he's worked with previously, right? Or someone he's always wanted to nail. Right? Yeah. And then the rest of the money has to go on, like low rent Toronto warehouse, sets that were left over from the last Jim Wynorski porno.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I think he should be given that, and he should be given, $2 million a movie, and he should be given a contract where he gets to make like 10 movies. Because in all honesty, the reason why we're not seeing Spader continue in a straight-to-video sort of market is that really the straight-to-video market now even like doesn't allow movies like Critical Care, sadly, to be made. They're either very low, sort of cheaply made whimsical romances or dramas about the elderly, or it's action flicks and using favorite martial artists or action stars or whatever, or over the hill actors like John Travolta and Liam Neeson still wheezing their way through Retribution or whatever the fuck. Right. Oh, Matthew Modine was the bad guy. Shocker, I think not. Matthew Modine shows up at the beginning like fucking Chekhov's villain, and he's all got his fucking white hair, and he's like, oh, Jack, with his playful banter, you're an arsehole, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, I think maybe Matthew Modine really does hate Liam Neeson. Sure enough, yes, he does. Orchestrates the whole fucking thing just for Liam Neeson. And so this was so obvious throughout this movie. This is why these B movies we need... but I don't know how else they get made, right? Because unless Tubi's making them, or Amazon Prime is making them just to shit out content on Amazon Prime, unless sort of DVD or small run Blu-ray companies are still making them with like Lundgren or whatever that they know that they can actually sell in Walmart or something. I wonder how many years people have been walking up to the Walmart movie center and being like, Dolph Lundgren's still alive, huh? Wow. Exactly. Because I swear there's a new Lundgren movie every week, but out on the racks of Walmart. And good for him. Good for him. I love Lundgren. He's awesome. Good for Lundgren. Dolph, if you're listening, good going, man. Well done. You beat the odds. So, but there just isn't room for because, what did Spader do really in his career? He did he either worked with classic directors and did sort of mumblecore, slightly sexually tinged kind of dramas, right? Or he did, B-movie thrillers or detective films or whatever, right? And he occasionally would crop up in a Hollywood darling kind of film, like a Lincoln or whatever, or one of the Brat Pack kind of things. Yeah. He sort of just did, he did sort of a few very kind of stereotypical characters. He didn't sort of do much beyond his range, you know what I mean? So there just isn't a room for those kind of films, I don't think, unless we see him enter the slightly more recent Cusack, but again, even Cusack's given up. Yeah. And Spader decides to become an action hero. After the Blacklist or whatever, handling guns and stuff, like, maybe Spader goes full Neeson. Like maybe the next 10 years we get Spader, shagging and shooting his way through Eastern Europe or Winnipeg. You know what I mean? Which are the two places where they make movies.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, because the other thing about Spader,
so I would like to see him do those movies, like he used to do them in the 90s, and at the same time form a jazz quartet with Jeff Goldblum, Sam Neill, and Peter Weller. Yes. That's how I want. Now that the Blacklist has ended, I want him wearing trilby hats, playing in a jazz quartet with Jeff Goldblum, Sam Neill, and Peter Weller. That's got to be the greatest jazz quartet of all time. Occasionally you get Andrew McCarthy on vocals and, you know what I mean? Robert Downey shows up and does a Sting impression. But no, I think that's what I want to see Spader doing. I want to see him do these $2 to $5 million pictures with weird, interesting directors where basically the plot hinges on whether he's had sex with someone or not, because that's what all Spader plots should hinge on. And he just gets to make 10 of them in a row, while on the weekends he plays jazz with 3 other completely bizarre human beings.
Right. Well, because the other point that's great about the Netflix thing is that the Blacklist is on Netflix.
Yeah.
And a lot of times what Netflix likes to do is they like to have sort of these tie-in things like, oh, we've got The Irishman. Here, watch these other Scorsese movies. You know, it's like they kind of have that content together. And so it's a great way to be like, okay, hey, Spader, make, you know, and they may even give him more of a budget. They might even give him like $10 million to make these movies.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, you like the Blacklist? Watch this with Spader. And it's got, you know, Spader looking like a Blacklist character on it.
Right.
But you're right. It's like, it's got to be like a Cronenberg or a De Palma.
Yes,
like,
anyone who can't get, that's it. Anyone who can't currently get like just a $5 million movie made,
right,
because there just isn't that landscape.
Yeah.
Netflix decides, look, he's made us a ton of money with the Blacklist.
Yeah.
You know him, you love him. He's got a trilby and a flouncy scarf. We're putting money on Spader.
Yes.
And as long as he doesn't break the $5 million budget, he can do what he likes. So Spader immediately calls up the 10 sleaziest directors you can possibly imagine. De Palma. He's like, oh, who was it who made all those sex films in the 70s and 80s? De Palma.
Yeah. Right.
He got ginger pubes on screen. Like, he got Michael Caine in a movie with ginger pubes. That's what he was able to do. The mad De Palma bastard.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, De Palma, Cronenberg. I mean, there's got to be some European ones too. I mean, what's Verhoeven, right?
Verhoeven?
Is he still making movies?
Can you imagine a Spader Verhoeven movie?
Oh, yeah.
Fluids everywhere.
Yeah, and just and like have Peter Weller play like a small part as like a guy with like a pea coat and a scarf and a trilby hat who plays like the saxophone, plays jazz music like at a club.
Yes.
And has a few good lines.
Yes.
While Spader is like seducing some woman at the bar who they go back and have sex, or whatever.
See, this is the world I want to live in, Matt, where Spader and his random friends make 10 just of the weirdest films on Netflix and just bow out. Like, that would be the greatest thing while being in a jazz quartet.
Right. Yes, exactly.
All right. So that's what we want Andy and Kim for Spader to do. Andy Lund's question, and this is, I believe, the last question of the night. Andy Lund asks, when choosing a new hat, what in particular do you think Spader looks out for? So what are things that you think we're going to see Spader wearing on his head in the near future, hat-wise?
Boy, I mean, I feel like it's one of those things where, like, if he walks past a thrift store or something like that, and he just sees something on a mannequin, and his gender doesn't have to be either gender, right?
Yes,
like
he's gender fluid.
Yeah, it like, I think it's got to probably be a certain color. I feel like he's probably more of like not like an over the top primary color.
No, he likes a taupe, but only because he loves to say the word taupe.
Right, exactly.
And he leaves it hanging in the air until the woman who runs the thrift shop is thoroughly uncomfortable. He goes, because he just picks it up and he goes, what color would you say this was? Would you call it taupe? And he would just leave it.
Right.
He would like hang it in the air, dribbling out of his mouth. Taupe.
Do that smile.
That little smile.
Right.
And she would just look like her soul had been sucked from her body, and she knew that she was powerless to stop whatever was coming next. And she would just stammer, yes, it's taupe-ish. And then he would be like, I would like to buy this taupe hat.
Right. He might even ask,
tell
like,
no one what you saw this day.
He might even say something too, like I don't have my wallet on me and I don't do Apple Pay. Because I read in his trivia he doesn't have a computer, so I can't imagine he has Apple Pay. He's like, I don't have my wallet on me. Would you be willing to be paid in poetry? Or, I could knit you something in return and come back in 2 weeks with this,
Would you like to be paid off with exorbitant cunnilingus in on the shelf in the back kitchen right now? Because if you'd be willing to take payment in oral sex, I am lubricated and ready, and to be at your servile mistress, is how he would start each movie. Every movie would start with that scene, and we'd be like, oh, it's a Spader joint now. That's what I want to see James Spader doing. God, now that's what I want to see James Spader doing. I know that's not what it's going to do. I know because he was like, I don't really like acting. I just do it so I could take exorbitant road trips with my rich friends. Yeah. And now I feel like he's made all the money he's ever going to need for the Blacklist. I don't know that we see Spader in another thing, unless NBC comes calling and says we're going to do a spin-off of the Blacklist called Knob List. You go around and sleep with the guest star every week. while the audience goes, wait, I thought she was meant to be his daughter. And then they were like, yes, but from the way Spader was sleazing over her in the scenes, everyone was very uncomfortable with the idea that she was his daughter because he was so oozing towards her in such a reptilian fashion that they were like, she can't possibly be his daughter. And then he would like look at the camera and be like, but she is my daughter, and I'm still slightly aroused by her. Because that's what the whole of watching The Blacklist was like. You were like, but surely she's his daughter. And then he would show up and be like, well, hello, my dear, and like drape his thumbs into his waistcoat or whatever. And you'd be like, ugh, wait, she can't be his daughter because he's clearly trying to sleep with her. But by the same token, Spader is so delighted at the horror that the audience is feeling as this constantly goes on throughout the series, that to him, he strung us out on a Sting, like I'm bringing Sting back into it, on a Sting like tantric, 10-year-long orgasm that Spader just sprinkled out across the decade, never allowing us to be fully, but she's his daughter. The only way this makes sense is if she's his daughter. Well, hello, my dear. And he would slither up to her and be like, ooh, Emily, or whatever her name was. Well, I don't know Beatrice, or whatever her name was. Oh, let's go on another case together. Ooh, where I fly around in very small planes, sipping tiny cups of coffee, taking it up like the giant flesh egg that I've become. Put another trilby on me, my dear, and make it taupe. At which point she just completely collapses in orgasmic disarray. And we're like, but isn't she his daughter? And that just went on for 10 years.
Well, from Spader's standpoint, right, this is where the TV thing comes up against his sensibilities, because his 90s movie sensibilities would have been like, this is what's going to happen in this independent film that we're making.
Right.
She's my daughter, but we're going to hook up and we're going to do it, Whereas like NBC is like, no, you can't do that. This is you're still on broadcast television in America. This is too ridiculous. No. We're not doing that.
He's like, you just wait and see what I'm going to get away with. I'm going to strut around like a peacock with a giant boner, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it. I'm going to hold guns like I'm holding my penis. And I am spraying the oncoming criminals with ropes of archism. And everyone's like, this is just a show about a spy who solves other spies' cases. Right, but I'm going to make it about a demon prowling through the fertile undergrowth of society looking for people he can pick off or bone. And they're like, I don't think we think of the Blacklist as the same thing. And he's like, tough, I've signed the contract, and without me, there's no show. And they're like, fuck, we're stuck in some kind of Lynchian dystopian nightmare where we have to make this family-friendly 45-minute case of the week type show that's sort of a Law and Order-ish type thing, meets The Mentalist, meets Castle, meets whatever. This kind of like fun, friendly spy espionage, solve a case a week thing. And you've turned it into Dante's Seventh Circle of Sex. And he's like, yeah, that's what I've done. Exactly. And I'm very proud about it. You're welcome, NBC. And it's a huge success. And it's because people are watching it going, but it's his daughter. The only way the whole fucking show makes sense. No, not his daughter. It's never his daughter. Never admit it. Never, because he keeps trying to knob it off with her.
Right. It's like the same thing as The Practice, where it's like America is just used to this sort of bland kind of Laura Flynn Boyle, Dylan McDermott kind of thing. Yeah. And all of a sudden you inject Spader into it. And like you said, he's carrying chairs around with a plum, and he's doing all kinds, right. And it's like America's just like, I've never seen this before.
It's like you're eating sushi at a dainty Chinese restaurant and someone plunks a giant octopus on your table that just starts flapping and spitting and kicking. And you're suddenly like, wait, we were having dainty little sushi. And then suddenly in comes this hard-on feet.
Right. Well, because for most of America who, like movies like Critical Care, like most of America who's watching The Practice, watching The Blacklist, they've even heard of Critical Care. They don't even know what a Critical Care is, let alone Keys to Tulsa or any other stuff, right? Like
no one should know Keys to Tulsa. No, that's hands down the worst Spader film ever made.
Right. Yeah, they don't know any of this stuff. And so then they see him, like you said, just sort of coming in as this like octopus being flopped on the table. Yeah. And they're like, oh, wait a second, that's different.
Yes.
And there's a part of them, Spader does it in this way, I think, where it's like most of the time for people that are watching that kind of stuff, when they see something different, they're like, I don't think I like different. Right. Let me change the channel. Oh, now that it's different, I don't want to watch it anymore. Yeah. But Spader's different is kind of an intriguing different.
Oh, he entices you and repels you in equal measure. I don't know how he does it. He maintains a level of allure and disgust at exactly the same time, and it's sort of phenomenal. Yeah. It's sort of it's sort of a line that very, very few people can walk.
Yeah,
because you wouldn't trust him to open an all-night laundry. You know what I mean? Like you wouldn't trust him to, run the register at a liquor shop. Like you wouldn't trust him because he'd be like, liquor, certainly. Is that my job? And you'd be like, no, James, why would anyone think that? Well, that's how I'm going to think about it. Because he's sort of the American Roger Moore in that respect. But see, Roger Moore, though, allured you and charmed you.
Yeah.
You were never fully repulsed by Roger Moore, even in View to a Kill, where he's like clearly 75 wearing a blonde wig. Why is he blonde in View to a Kill? And wearing a lot of those like life preserver jackets to try and cover up his paunch and his fucking truss that he's having to wear to keep his paunch in. But even when he's that repellent, you kind of loved Roger Moore, and if he did have it away with the much, 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 much younger actress, you were like, that's fine. I'm okay with that. Spader, on the other hand, he has all the Roger Moore. He has all of the charm and all of the ooze and all of the, well, hello, my dears. He has all of that. But then he has a layer underneath that he is capable of such inhumane debauchery on a level not seen since the Marquis de Sade. And he innately communicates to the audience, don't ever trust me, and don't ever leave me alone with your daughters. There was a scene I was watching, is it Straight to Hell, the Alex Cox Western? Is that what it's called?
Oh, might be.
Straight to Hell? Yes. And in that movie, lead singer of The Clash, oh man, fucking name's gone out of my head.
Oh. Why can't I think of the name either? That's horrible, because we should know. Yeah, that's like a...
I do know who it is. I just can't think.
Yeah.
Straight to Hell Western.
You know what it is, too? Everybody's going to be listening to this, and they're going to be like,
Joe
I know
Strummer.
who
Joe Strummer.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in the movie Straight to Hell, one of the coolest characters in the movie is played by Clash lead singer Joe Strummer. or bass player or something. He's in The Clash. Joe Strummer's in The Clash. Yeah. So one of the coolest characters in Straight to Hell is played by Joe Strummer from The Clash. And there's a scene in which this ridiculous store owner, who's very highly strung and very jealous of his much younger, much hotter wife, sees Joe Strummer come in, sees that his daughter or his wife or whoever she is instantly aroused by Joe Strummer and wants nothing more than to be on Joe Strummer. They convolute to get this annoying guy to like leave the shop. And the moment they leave the shop, they just immediately pounce on each other. And then, of course, he comes back in 30 seconds and they're like, act like nothing's going on. And then he goes away again and they pounce on each other. And then he comes back and he catches them, right? So it's like that. It's like the idea that if you left Spader just alone for too long, that just happens. And he somehow gives that off. Whereas I've heard in real life, he's sort of a very nervous, very anxious, very shy, very possibly like germophobic sort of kind of almost, quiet guy who, yes, I know is his second wife, I think, and has a kid and stuff, and she's younger than him and whatever. Yeah. Although he's slightly doing that, it's never to Jack Nicholson or James Woodsian proportion. It's always DiCaprio. You always just kind of go like, you've earned it, Jimmy. Just keep it out of the limelight. Like, don't, you know what I mean? Like, just be quiet. Just live on the Lower East Side and potter about with your nannies and whatever. We won't say a word.
Well, because he has two kids from his first wife that were both born, like one was born in like 89 and the other was in 92. So he has like 30-year-old kids. Yes. And then he's got the other child that was born, I think, in like 08, who's like a teenager now, I guess. But so even in that relationship, I think she's older now. So like he didn't just like trade her in for a new, like what's the joke about DiCaprio that like 25 is too old, I guess, for him. Yeah.
But I mean, again, I just think somehow Spader has, and I don't understand, I guess because he never, and this is what I always have to remember. Yeah. If you see people over and over again on the press circuit, on podcasts, on, The View, whatever it is, it's because they want to be there. It's because a publicist company has said, go do that. Mm-hmm. Spader never, all through the Brat Pack years and then blah, 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 very rarely ever gave interviews unless it was at a film festival like Cannes or something where he was trying to get Crash noticed or trying to get, one of his earlier films noticed. Outside of that, he never really was interviewed very much, never liked interviews. And even all the time he was doing The Blacklist, I think he only went on Jimmy Fallon and Jimmy Kimmel. And I think he just did that once a season. He would do that. But that was it. He didn't do a lot. And so, although we know bits about Spader's life and we know bits about what he's sort of dotted throughout his interviews and things, no one's talking about James Spader except us, meaning in a good way. Like people aren't doing an expose on James Spader. TMZ are not chasing James Spader down at the airport. You know what I mean? Because he keeps his mouth shut and he just does his job. And then he goes home and has a wife and a kid. And then he shows up on Jimmy Fallon and makes a couple of jokes about throwing up on Jackie O. And people are like, oh, how quaint. And then he goes back to his rutting pad in New York City and does whatever diabolical things that James Spader gets up to, allegedly, hearsay. I've heard people say, so it's, and yet he's got the this like quiet mystique about him, and so it's a really interesting thing because on camera he is both deadly and attractive, and then in real life he's just like I like rock music and sex and hanging out with my kid and staying home. You know what I mean? He's just like a guy who's just like, don't ask me too many things. I'm not going to tell you. And that's when you see, so-and-so exposed, story gets leaked about the first time, they lost their virginity or something and they're horrified or whatever. You go, no, it didn't just happen. It didn't just happen because people weren't sat around being like, well, we better record it the next time Jessica, whatever her name is, tells people how she lost her virginity. How about you stop telling people how you lost your virginity? And then it wouldn't happen. Because Spader doesn't tell us, and he leaves it dangling, Matt, dangling. Right above everything he does, where you go, I cannot imagine the demons that were born of hell that night that James consummated a relationship for the first time. Can you imagine the rupture, the fissure that the earth would feel?
Right.
Unbelievable.
You were talking about Cusack earlier, right?
Right.
And it's so fascinating, like the difference between the two, where it's like Spader says on IMDb or whatever it's mentioned on it, that he doesn't even have a computer, right?
Right.
So we don't see him on Twitter, like Cusack goes on these drunken rants on Twitter, these like typo-ridden like things about like politics and things are going. He doesn't even know what he's talking about half the time. He's just like spewing this stuff out. Yeah, like you don't see Spader doing that kind of thing, right?
No,
like he's not making an ass out of himself
about any of it.
Right.
Spader could be prancing around behind closed doors wearing a MAGA hat and tiny little red MAGA Y-fronts, you know, riding his wife like a donkey, whipping his child with an old-fashioned hay broom, you know, one of those that they have like a hanging up next to a coal scuttle in a medieval reenactment fair. Or whatever who knows what he could be doing? He could be behind closed doors with, you know, all the fucking Wall Street types firing guns into cow carcasses while their wives run around and clean up the mess. Like, who knows what he's like behind closed doors? We have no idea. He could be quiet, mild-mannered, felt-clothes-wearing louche who just lies around his apartment like a voluminous slug, listening to Rolling Stones records and asking for more cups of chamomile herb-scented tea or whatever, or fucking kombucha or some shit. Or he could be an absolute menace, he could be Epstein levels of insanity. And who knows? We know nothing about Spader. We can but speculate, which is why literally his films are so utterly delicious. Matt, we're going to wrap this up. I have one more thing I want to talk about with Pump Up the Volume. But before we do that, last thoughts, last comments, and tell everyone where they can find you on a regular basis.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess, final comment on this. I think this movie, it's on Tubi. I mean, it's for a free streamer, hour and 45 minutes in and out. I think it's a great
free streamer is also James Spader's porn chat room name.
Exactly. So yeah.
Free streamer 8. There were 7 others when he joined. Right. And he's mad. He's been writing off to the porn forums, being like, I'm James Spader, damn it. Make me free streamer 1. Right. Can't do it, Jimmy. Can't do it.
No, there's 7 ahead of you. Yeah, but yeah, for me, you can find me dtvconnoisseur.blogspot.com. That's where the links are to everything. The novels, the podcast, the blog. It's all right there. So dtvconnoisseur.blogspot.com.
Yes, not free streamer.
Not free streamer 8.
Who has said some of the sickest things. Porn forums don't ban a lot of things, but Free Streamer 8 has had pretty few black marks against him. Right. Here's my rant, Matt. I was watching Pump Up the Volume the other day with yet another kind of teenage girl's crumpet, thinking man's crumpet, Christian Slater. He's got a very Spader-esque quality in this movie, in Pump Up the Volume a little bit. But a little more vocal, a little more agitated, a little bit more excitable. And certainly more crude. But you've got the Pump Up the Volume. And at the very end of the movie, I don't know if you remember, they're trying to, chase him down, and he's got this... Because Christian Slater is an electronics expert hitherto undiscovered in the 1980s. And he manages to rig a completely perfect portable radio broadcasting kit into the back of his mum's Jeep. Right. And he's driving around broadcasting live. And everyone can hear him absolutely perfectly, even over the police sirens and the explosions and everything else that's happening. And he's driving through this big meetup with all the people. And as just right before he gets arrested, he's saying into the mic, steal the air. It's your air. Start up a show. Pick a name. Do a thing. Blah, 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 blah. Fill the air up. Fill the air with everything you've ever wanted to say and do. Don't be silenced. Don't be silenced. Don't be silenced. And I was watching that and I'm like, that's why we all started podcasts, Matt. And the thing is at a certain point, podcasts were that shining thing, that pump up the volume aesthetic. Sure, you had Kevin Smith and you had Mark Maron and so on, but those were both people who they didn't understand the form yet either. Like they were figuring out the form just like the rest of us were. And we all took it up and made it our own form, you know what I mean? And everyone has experimented with it. And it was this glorious pump up the volume style time where every single subject matter from, Alec Baldwin's performance as Boss Baby in the cartoon movie Boss Baby, all the way through to the troubles in the Middle East and everything in between, including true crime. There was at least 8 more true crime, probably 85,000 more true crime podcasts. Then there was another 185,000 podcasts about films. But you could go through the whole gamut. It was this wonderful free-for-all, and people were figuring it out, and we were all discovering it. And I've been doing this now 13 years. And so, that was our heyday, and we had that pump up the volume aesthetic. And now every single sodding celebrity who already had TV and fucking films, now they all have fucking podcasts, and they're corporatizing it and they're making it suck for the rest of us. Yeah. And it's funny, right? Because when you think of Spotify, all the big celebrity musicians were on there first, and then they let us little guys on here. Yeah. Podcasting was the other way round. We were here first, and then these vultures, fucking corporate shills with their, and now I'm going to start my podcast with an advert for fucking BetterHelp psychiatric blah blah. Give us $300 and an untrained, unlicensed therapist will talk your ear off for half an hour, and we'll pocket the money. Thank you very much. BetterHelp or whatever. I'm being mean to BetterHelp. It might help people. It might be wonderful. I have no idea. It sounds like a scam to me, but that's just me. Because everything on the internet is to collect your data. So why not just go to therapy and collect your data? You know what I mean? But then, podcasts and shows have all become corporatized. Now everyone's fucking chilling. And I love Conan O'Brien. But when he does Miller Lite ads, my fucking soul dies. Fucking soul dies. When he does ads for like insurance companies and shit. Do you know what I saw today, Matt? There's this guy on Instagram who does an Instagram feed where he makes little twee rustic dinners to have with his dog. And he does it in a little log cabin or out in a woodland glade. And he whispers and he says, "All right, buddy." And he has this big friendly mustache and a little cloth cap and wears old-timey clothing, and everything is 70s or like 1770s. It's either one or the other. It's either like an old wooden shack or it's like kind of sexy 70s. But either way, and he's like, "All right, buddy." And he has these cute little dogs and he's making food and he's whispering. He's basically found a way to combine the 3 biggest memeable things, whispering, dogs, and cooking things. He's put them all into one thing, right? And I used to watch his stuff because sometimes it was kind of quaint and mellow and there was a dog in it and he cooked a burger and you kind of went, okay, there's someone in a woodland glade cooking a burger for his dog. This warms my heart enough for me to be able to not hate everything that happens today. And then do you know what I saw today, Matt? Do you know what I saw today?
Was he reading an ad?
No, he is now, all his latest video was sponsored and literally featured swag from the insurance company Geico. At which point I unfollowed him and decided, because it was like someone had reached into your, I'm not going to say your favorite teddy bear, but let's just say like one of the teddy bears that was making you happy at that moment. Yeah. And they reached inside the teddy bear and pulled out a still beating Cronenbergian green oozing Robert Rodriguez heart. Yeah. And you were so horrified by it that you could never have hope, dreams, or happiness again. That's what it was like watching Hello Buddy and Now from Geico. Fuck! Even you've sold out, you miserable cretin. Even you serving up coziness and whatever. You're going to be infested with the insurance company that fucking has more mascots than it has insurance policies.
Well, do you remember earlier
I was disappointed.
I remember early in the blog period, like when blogging was kind of becoming a big thing. I remember like movie studios would reach out, like Universal would reach out.
Yes.
About like somebody from their company would reach out about like, oh, this big movie's coming out.
Hey, I used to get screeners and do interviews and all sorts. Yeah.
Yeah. And they'd be like, will you talk about this movie on your site? And it's like, well, like you guys could cover my student loans debt with like a rounding error.
Right.
Like I'm not doing this for free. Like I will talk about your movie if but I'm not giving you free advertising. But there would be a lot of people that would be like on Twitter and stuff being like the same campaigns. They'd be like so excited like to be like, oh, I've got, I'm doing a giveaway for this movie or whatever. And it's like,
I did that, like, Matt. I sold my soul.
But because the funny thing is,
but it wasn't to Geico; it was to movie companies, and I'm in support of the movie companies.
Well,
and I never covered a film that I didn't like. The ones that I covered were just the ones I liked.
Well, like an indie comes up to me and says, "Hey, can you review my movie?" It's like, yeah, I'll get the word out about your movie or something like that. But like Universal, I was like, I'm not doing. I was like, you pay me, and I'll do it because I would do it for money. Like the thing was, they wanted me to do it for free, and it's like, well, okay, but like, yeah, I mean, I like for my podcast, I do wonder, like if Geico came to me and said, but see that. I wonder how much they even pay, right? Like, I wonder, right, because it's got to be cheaper.
It's got to keep him in tweed caps and dogs he can drown or whatever he does with them. I mean, what if you found that out? The man who took money from Geico secretly, those cute puppies that are in this film, drowns them. He's got a dog fighting ring, and when they're too old to fight, he puts them in these films. You're like, wait, what? The guy who used to do Hello Buddy with the little burger for his dog in a woodland glade fought dogs, and when they were too old, he put them in these cozy videos for fucking Instagram, which Geico paid for, and then he drowned them in a stream. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm telling you. Allegedly, I heard. They said.
I do wonder, because the cat ones maybe even more so than the dog ones, because it's like we'll try to take a picture of one of our cats. And just trying to take a picture of them, let alone like get them on video doing something quaint or funny or something like that. They just run off and do it. I do wonder, like, if you've got like a whole, like presence on social media around your animals, like how much you really got to like work on them to get them to do what you want them to do.
Oh, yes. Beat them with sticks, prod them with cattle prods. No, I don't know that. Allegedly, I heard they said.
It's like you watch these and you're like, oh, look at how cute and precocious this cat is. It's like, doing this cute and precocious thing.
How many treats are you giving your animal? Like every time they do a little flip, you're like, oh, here's another carbohydrate full of gluten that I'm going to give to this poor animal.
And it's like, we know with like one of our cats gets the steroid thing on their ear because they have asthma, and so for my wife to get the get him to do it, she just gives him a treat,
right?
And then the other cat wants a treat as well at the same time. And so she would give them a couple treats, but they started to have stomach issues because they can't have that many. Those treats are like so, rich. But I would imagine, if you're like making 3 videos a day on Instagram, 3 reels a day on Instagram with your cats, like you've just got to go through like bags of those like temptations things, to get them to do what you want. Because I mean, cats in particular.
This podcast does not endorse Temptations or any other tasty comestible for cats. We don't endorse cat products or cat byproducts. We mention them purely as a touchstone. I was
going to say, my wife and I, we don't even give them that. We she gets like some kind of fancier brand. It's like salmon. That's like they're like or salmon bites or something like that. But it's like you shake that bag twice, and suddenly they could be anywhere. They could be in a dead sleep. They could be 3 miles away, and they will hear that shake, and they will come.
My cat. I'm not even kidding. When I used to have a cat, because I used to have a cat many lives ago, Matt. Many lives ago. And I would be making a tuna mayo sandwich. The cat could be 2 flights up in the bedroom at the other end of the house.
Right.
And I could be down in the kitchen. I could take the can down. I could get the can opener, I could very quietly put the can opener in. The moment I turned that, I would hear a thud and then running down the stairs, and he would come and sit right by my feet. And what I used to do is I would completely empty out the tuna can, to the point where there's just a few flakes or whatever. And I would just, because they have the cat safety lids, put it on the floor, and he would just bury his head in it and just move it like a hockey puck around the floor for hours, happy as anything. And when you can give an animal that kind of happiness, Matt, it's all been worth it. Words to live by, James Spader. Give some animals some happiness, but not in your way, in a nice way. Like a Jon Stewart way, adopt a goat or something. And whatever you do, Spader, keep on spadering, because we would be sad if you didn't.
Yeah.
This has been an epic episode. This has covered so much. And we have gone through such a roller coaster, Matt. I don't know how we will ever better it, but we will next time on Critical Care.
Do we have to add something to the Sleazatorium, or does he need a...
Oh, good point. Yes. Last thing we have to always do on a Sleazy Spader episode. Good job, Matt. Well done. Earning his co-host stripes there. Is we have to put something from Critical Care into the Sleazatorium. And do you know what you would put in the Sleazatorium?
So the best that I could come up with was Albert Brooks's mustache from because I don't think it's a real mustache. It's got to be a fake mustache.
It's definitely not a real mustache.
Peel that off and throw it in the Sleazatorium. That was what
Okay, why his mustache? What do you think is his mustache?
Just because the whole Albert Brooks, like that whole like costume thing that he was wearing. I mean, like we were talking about. I mean, it looked like if like SNL was doing a sketch where somebody was supposed to be Albert Einstein. Like that's
that's how it looked. Yes, it looked like Peter Falk at the beginning of The Princess Bride.
Yeah,
where they didn't spend too much money on making his hair white. They just threw some talcum powder around him and went, "Get on, Peter. You're only on one scene." Because but it's done throughout the movie. Is that how Peter Falk talks? I don't know. Anyway, and another thing. So, what would we put in the Sleazatorium? I was trying to think. I mean, probably something to do with like Helen Mirren's scar.
Oh.
Like probably something that dark.
Yeah.
Probably Helen Mirren's scar and Kyra Cedric's French basque that she was wearing. And he has that and the scar like glued to it, so that whoever wears it, he has to, what he calls, feel the scar. And they're scared, but also, as I said, violently aroused. And they don't know what to do about it, because he's an enigma. Even his IMDb photograph, which is him on the red carpet of some award ceremony or some whatever, right? Even his picture, he has a look on his face that says, if you come one step closer, I'm either killing you, fucking you, or killing you and then fucking you. Right. Like, he has the darkest look in his eye. But also, he looks like your friendly accountant who could be like, hello, I'm Chester. Please come in. I'll do your taxes. You know what I mean? He's so... the many faces of James Spader. He is an enigma wrapped in a flesh sack, wrapped in a sex orb, wrapped in an inflatable bed, and placed under the dying corpse of Jeffrey Wright. Only so you know that Spader was on set.
Yeah.
Under the inflatable bed with so they cut a hole in the floor and he's got like binoculars looking through the inflatable bed. And that's how he looked at the scene when Helen Mirren took her top off. He was watching from underneath the inflatable bed and like through the crack in the legs of Jeffrey Wright. And that's how he wanted to view Mirren's boobs. That's how he wanted to, he's like, that's Sydney, dear boy. I want to build a room underneath this room. Well, there isn't a room. Well, dig one. Sydney, dig one. Why does there need to be a room below this room? Well,
See,
because I'm going to cut a hole in the floor and stare at Mirren's boobs.
See, I think the opposite. I think because this used to be a Wynorski, Fred Olin Ray set, that they already had that hole there that they were using for shots of like, upskirts and whatever kind of shot, or like good angles to get good boob shots and everything. That Spader saw that and said, "This is what I want to use that for."
Oh no, you're right. You are right. Yes, you're right. No, he found every peephole in the set. That's what he did.
Yes.
Because he's Spader and. That's Jim Wynorski. It's surprised Jim Wynorski never cast James. What if the 10 movies that he does a fully endorsed partnership with Jim Wynorski?
Yeah.
And it's like an Andy Sedaris type thing where Wynorski just makes like 10, Sedaris was Wynorski, Fred Olin Ray style movies, and Spader is in every single one of them.
Yeah. And that would be amazing. Like topless hot tub scenes with like Julie K. Smith and things like that, right? Like and just get like that whole crew, like whoever's available. I mean, Julie K. Smith, I think she still does stuff with Wynorski, so it's like, I saw like Stormy Daniels did one with her. I think she did Witches of Breastwick, but then apparently she got fired from the second one because I heard Wynorski didn't get along. So who knows if he's got like certain actresses that he works with. But I mean, Spader as like the character, because I guess like Sedaris would cast himself in those movies, so maybe it would be like him playing the Sedaris character. But even like if he was like this like Bosley from Charlie's Angels kind of thing, where he just sits in the hot tub, no shirt on, with his bald head like glistening with hot tub water, and just being like, "Oh, girls, we've got to go take out the baddie, Eric Estrada, whoever's the bad guy in Las Vegas," and and these women are just sitting around him with like bikinis or with the topless in the hot tubs, and he's just like staring at them like like while they're just topless, and they're like playing it straight, right? They're just like so and so, he runs the cartel out of and they're trying to run it. Yeah, well then you've got to go get him. You've got to go to whatever. It's like,
and occasionally he just does this. He just goes like that, as if he's going to touch, as if he's going to, and then he just stops tantalizingly close to the bosom.
Yeah.
And then like licks his lips and withdraws his hand.
Yeah. That would be like Netflix.
I've heard, they say.
Netflix could like if like Sedaris is like so like sui generis that like you can't imagine somebody else recreating it and coming up with the same magic. But if you were going to try to reboot or kind of do something.
Spader are the two men to do it.
That would be it, right? And then Wynorski, obviously some of them like Julie K. Smith worked on them, so they were available for them. I mean, that would be the thing, and Netflix would be the place to show it. And
Shannon Tweed comes out of retirement.
Oh yeah.
Shannon Tweed comes out of retirement, and she's like, if Spader is getting into the softcore,
it'd be so perfect.
Yeah, Tweed is just like, I'm getting back in the game. Yeah, and it just to Gene Simmons crying his eyes out. As Spader does, like, wraps his, tentacle around Tweed's shoulder, grabs her shoulder, and walks her out of the room.
Oh, yeah.
Gene Simmons just weeps, for he knows his wife is about to be conquered by
She's from Newfoundland originally, I think, and I could just see like Spader just wanting to talk to her about Newfoundland. Like, I hear you're from Newfoundland. I hear
while
the fishing
they're in the
is fantastic
midst of having
there.
sex.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Like,
yeah. I've always wanted to travel there before.
Newfoundland.
I've heard it's beautiful there in the springtime.
And she's just like, fish? There's fish? He's just like, yes, there are fish. Tell me about the fish. All right. Okay. That's it, everybody. We've put things in the Sleazatorium. We have talked about critical care. We have looked at James Spader up, down, inside out, roundabout. We can't decide if he's good, bad, or indifferent. And we just don't know, will Chester the accountant ever do the taxes? Probably not. But it's been a twisty, turny, Occam's confusion of a show. And Matthew, thank you so much for being the co-writer on the storm that was this particular episode, the inaugural episode of Sleazy Spader Springtime 2024.